Chapter 672. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found online can be found here. Xiaoheng bought 2 flavors of dried meat. One was spicy, and the other was honey sesame. In addition, he also bought a bag of vegetarian dried meat made of tofu for little Jing Kong. He found Gu Jiao in front of the Lantern Riddles stall, and handed the 2 boxes of dried meat to her. Gu Jiao tried a piece of spicy dried meat first. It was sweet and spicy with a slight numbness, and the texture was very rich. You try one too. Gu Jiao handed the box to Xiaoheng. In order to make it easier for Gu Jiao to eat, Xiaoheng took all the lanterns in Gu Jiao's hand. Xiaoheng raised the lanterns in his hand, indicating to Gu Jiao that he had no hands. In the end, Gu Jiao took a piece of dried meat and fed it directly to him. Xiaoheng ate it with a smile. Is it good? Gu Jiao asked. It's good, he said as he looked at her deeply. Mu Qingqin's eyes hurt, and he was extremely irritated. There seemed to be a strange atmosphere between the two of them, as if no one could get in between them. Xiaoheng bought a lot of dried meat, and Mu Chuan and the others also tried the dried meat. The 3 of them had a good impression of Xiaoheng. He was good at writing, talented, generous, had a sense of propriety, and had a good conversation style. He was a person they could make friends with. Mu Chuan held a box of dried meat and asked while eating, Mr. Long, which academy are you studying in? Is your academy participating in the boxing competition? Although Xiaoheng was wearing a mask, his eyes and voice were very young. Coupled with his talent, Mu Chuan could tell that he was a student. Xiaoheng said, I'm not studying in the academy. Mu Chuan sighed. What a pity. I wanted to invite you to watch the boxing competition. Yuan Xiao said, even if you're not a student of the academy, you can still watch it. Mr. Long, if you're free tomorrow, please come over. Xiaoheng smiled and nodded. Okay. Mu Qingqin glanced at them coldly and said, so you know that there's a boxing competition. It's getting late, so we should go back. Mu Chuan begged, don't, 4th brother. Let's play a little longer. I haven't won enough lanterns yet. Mu Qingqin said coldly, you've already given away the lanterns you won. What's the point of winning more? Mu Chuan pursed his lips. He wanted to struggle a little more, but Wu Fuzi came looking for him. This time, the few of them were completely hopeless, and could only obediently be brought back to the inn by Wu Fuzi. Wu Fuzi stared at them with his fiery eyes. Gu Jiao and Xiaoheng did not have a loving farewell. They separated as if nothing had happened. After returning to the inn, Gu Jiao pushed open the door to her room. Mu Qingqin suddenly asked, is this really the first day you 2 met? Gu Jiao said without changing her expression, yes. Mu Qingqin wanted to say something but hesitated. On second thought, even if the 2 of them were old friends, it was not his business. Go back to sleep, he said indifferently and stepped into the room. Gu Jiao put the 2 lanterns on the bedside, washed up, and went to sleep. The next day, the group went to Lingbo Academy under Wu Fuzi's lead after breakfast. Wu Fuzi drew lots in the attic as usual. He went to Tianqiong Academy's room with a serious expression. Mu Chuan asked, Wu Fuzi, which academy are we fighting against? Lingbo Academy or Canaan Academy? At this point, only 3 academies were left. Who would have thought that Wu Fuzi would shake his head and say, neither? Everyone was shocked. Mu Chuan was flabbergasted. And no? How? Wu Fuzi said with a serious expression, it's Shaolin Academy. Gu Jiao understood that Shaolin Academy did not participate in the previous matches. It was because Mount Song Academy and Black Bamboo Academy fought and caused trouble. Both of them were kicked out of the competition, so there was an extra place for them to advance. As for why they did not choose from the eliminated teams, they had to ask the organizer. Gu Jiao asked, do the other academies have any objections? Wu Fuzi said, the eliminated academies have no objections. Maybe it's because they were defeated by Shaolin Academy before. Shaolin Academy was last year's champion. Wu Fuzi was relieved when he learned that they did not participate this year. Who knew that what he feared would happen? How did we end up fighting against them? It's the first match. Wu Fuzi's morale dropped. Are the students of Shaolin Academy all monks? Yuan Shao asked curiously. Wu Fuzi shook his head. No, there are monks, lay disciples, and ordinary people. Yuan Shao asked again. Are there ordinary people among the people who bowed? Wu Fuzi shook his head again. No, they are all first-class monks. Yuan Shao was speechless. Everyone was speechless. Tianqiong Academy was the first match. After the lots were drawn, they began to prepare for the match. On the other side, the spectators entered the arena one after another. Xiao Heng sat on his personal viewing platform. Beside him were his 3 schoolmates. Commandery Prince Ming's maidservant was attentively attending to them. Prince Ming was also here today. However, just like the first time, he did not appear on the grandstand. Instead, he was in a wing room on the highest floor of the attic. The view here was broad and they could see the entire arena. However, the people in the arena could not see them. There was another person sitting beside Prince Ming. Cousin, please have some tea, Prince Ming said politely. Crown Prince Han picked up the teacup and took a sip. Crown Prince Han was the most outstanding descendant of the Han family. Prince Ming did not dare to treat him like how he treated Han Che. Prince Ming was very polite. There was even a hint of respect in his voice. Cousin, why did you come to watch the match today? I just wanted to take a look, Crown Prince Han said. Although he said so, he had been looking for Tianqiong Academy since the beginning. He did not know how the lots were drawn in the attic, so he could not tell which match Tianqiong Academy was in. However, he saw Dean Sin and a few students of Tianqiong Academy on the grandstand. One of them was even in a wheelchair. Speaking of wheelchairs, he glanced around and saw a group of people from the Duke's mansion entering the arena. He looked at a man in luxurious clothes who walked out from behind the crowd. That is Second Master Jing. Commandery Prince Ming followed his gaze and said, That's right. Second Master Jing took a few steps forward. Crown Prince Han did not see clearly, because someone was blocking his path. When he was far away from the crowd, he saw that Second Master Jing was pushing a wheelchair. He asked suspiciously, Is the person in the wheelchair Dukin? Yes, it is him, Prince Ming replied. He is really awake. Crown Prince Han had heard some rumors. However, he did not believe it until he saw it with his own eyes. Prince Ming sneered and said, He has been awake for a few days. I heard that the disciple of Dr. Luo of the Chen Kingdom woke him up. However, he is still unable to speak or write. In my opinion, he is no different from a zombie. Crown Prince Han's target was not Dukin, so he quickly looked away. The people from Tianqiong Academy entered the arena. Mu Qingchen was still the center of attention. Everywhere he went, there were cheers and screams. However, Crown Prince Han did not look at him. His gaze fell on the young man behind Mu Qingchen. Crown Prince Han was so far away that he could not see the iconic birthmark clearly. However, when he saw the young man, Crown Prince Han was sure that he was the arrogant guy from the lower kingdom that Han Che had mentioned. The young man was riding on a horse. He looked valiant. He exuded an arrogant and unruly aura. Prince Ming said, Cousin, why do you think His Majesty suddenly held a birthday banquet? Isn't this a taboo for him? This was not only the birthday of the emperor, but also the birthday of the crown princess. At the same time, it was also the day that the crown princess was demoted to a commoner. He felt unlucky just thinking about it. Crown Prince Han stared at Gu Jiao without blinking and said casually, Then it's no longer a taboo. No longer a taboo could mean forgiveness, but it could also mean forgetting. While Commandery Prince Ming was thinking about Crown Prince Han's words, the people from the Shaolin Academy entered the arena. Gasps could be heard from the crowd. Obviously, they were also very surprised and expressed deep sympathy for the Tianqiong Academy. Tianqiong Academy is going against Shaolin Academy. Isn't it hopeless? Shaolin Academy was last year's champion. They even defeated the Imperial family's team. Tianqiong Academy is no match for them. What a pity. I didn't want Tianqiong Academy to lose. I wanted to watch a few more matches, but now it's impossible for them not to lose. What bad luck. Why is Tianqiong Academy against Shaolin Academy out of the 3 academies? The people from Tianqiong Academy were Mu Qingchen, Gu Jiao, Mu Chuan, and Zhao Wei. Yuan Shao was the second to enter the arena. They rode their horses all the way here, so they naturally heard the discussions. Mu Chuan whispered to Gu Jiao, "Don't listen to their nonsense. We will definitely win." The monks from Shaolin Academy rode their horses over and lined up in front of Tianqiong Academy. They wore monk robes and were tall and sturdy. They looked dignified and ferocious, which reminded people of the Vajra Buddha statues in temples. They were not easy to deal with. Mu Qingchen had never looked so serious in any of his previous matches, but this time, even he was not optimistic about the outcome. Shaolin Academy had never been defeated. No one could defeat them. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. Please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that you can't find on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/10754045 HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 673. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that can't be found on the internet can be found here. Wow, they're going up against the Shaolin martial monks. In the attic, Prince Ming looked at the group of people on the field with great interest. This is going to be a good show. Prince Ming didn't pay much attention to any of the academies. However, he had been humiliated in front of Tianqiong Academy. Nothing could make him happier than to humiliate that kid. Prince Ming decided not to discuss the emperor's thoughts for the time being. He waved his hand at the servants and asked them to bring up the fruits and snacks. He wanted to see the Shaolin martial monks beat that kid up. The 4 Shaolin martial monks on the field were each more furious than the other. Each of them had a scar on their head. From right to left there was 1 scar, 2 scars and 3 scars. It seemed that the strongest martial monk had 6 scars. Don't you think these martial monks are a little scary? Mu Chuan whispered to Gu Jiao. Aren't you not afraid? Gu Jiao asked. Mu Chuan immediately straightened his back and said stubbornly, I'm not afraid. Who says I'm afraid? Gu Jiao glanced at him and said, Talk when your legs stop shaking. Mu Chuan was speechless. The Shaolin martial monks didn't talk to them. They just exchanged glances. In fact, it was more of a show of force and provocation than an exchange. To be honest, Mu Chuan was a little scared. He was even more scared than when he was fighting against the Han family's Black Wind Cavalry. Zhao Wei was the same as him. He was also scared. However, he was more experienced than Mu Chuan, so he didn't show too much fear. The kickoff of the first section was decided by drawing lots. After that, the opponent would kick off for every goal. Tianqiong Academy was the one kicking off. Mu Qingchen, as the main attacker of the team, rarely participated in the kickoff. However, because the opponent was too strong, they decided to let him kick off after discussing it with Wu Fuzi. It had only been a few seconds since they went on the field and waited for the gong to sound, but everyone felt like a long time had passed. The people in the stands were so nervous that they held their breaths. How could this be? Second Master Jing sat in front of the railing and stared at the Shaolin martial monks on the field. Do we have to be so unlucky? Today, the second madam had some matters to attend to and couldn't leave, so she couldn't come over. On his left was the wheelchair-bound Dukin. Behind Dukin stood Muru Xian, who was dressed in a white dress and green gauze. When Muru Xian heard that, she looked at Second Master Jing in confusion. What's wrong? What's wrong with that? Second Master Jing sighed deeply. That group of Shaolin martial monks is very powerful. Tianqiong Academy isn't their match. Muru Xian's eyes moved as she asked, Second Master, do you really hope that Tianqiong Academy will win? Second Master Jing stammered, I didn't. It's just that those Shaolin martial monks didn't know how to control their strength. It wasn't easy for the students either. As soon as he said this, the High Duke's hand on the armrest slowly clenched into a fist and began to tremble slightly. The gong sounded. Facing the scorching sun, Mu Qingchen's expression turned serious as he steadily swung his club to open the ball. Second sister, hurry up. Outside the archery field, Su Shui pulled her second sister and squeezed into the crowd. She took out her token and asked the guards to let them pass. Slow down. Second Miss Su's hand hurt from being pulled by her. Su Shui said. The gong sounded just now. The archery competition has begun. Second Miss Su frowned slightly. It's already begun. Why are you in such a hurry? I want to watch fourth brother, Su Shui said seriously. I haven't seen fourth brother for a long time after he moved into the academy. Second Miss Su sighed. If father finds out that we skipped Master Fu's chess class and came here to watch some archery competition, he'll definitely punish us. Su Shui grabbed her wrist and walked toward Tianqiong Academy's grandstand. He won't. Let's go. Mu Qingchen's ball was extremely good. There were no problems with its speed and accuracy. The person who caught the ball was Zhao Wei. Zhao Wei had been learning archery since he was a child, so his technique was excellent. He successfully caught the ball that Mu Qingchen swung at him. He looked at Mu Chuan in front of him. Mu Chuan nodded at him. Zhao Wei passed the ball to Mu Chuan, and Mu Chuan passed it to Gu Jiao. At this time, Mu Qingchen had already arrived at the opponent's hole. Gu Jiao passed the ball to him, and Mu Qingchen took it and hit the ball into the hole with his pole. The four of them cooperated seamlessly and smoothly. The spectators finally got to see the Tianqiong Academy seriously play polo for the first time. However, the moment the ball was about to enter the hole, something unexpected happened. A Shaolin monk jumped on his horse and came to the hole. He hit the ball out of Mu Qingchen's way with his pole. The pole hit so far that it almost crossed half of the archery field. Zhao Wei and Mu Chuan had already rushed back. They rushed to grab the ball, but before they could even see the ball, they heard the gong on the referee's stand. Did they score? The two of them were stunned. Shaolin Academy took the lead and got the first flag at the beginning of the game. No, how did they score? What's going on? Mu Chuan was confused. He and Zhao Wei were chasing the polo ball. Did the ball escape into the hole by itself? Of course, it was not because the ball could escape, but because the Shaolin monk was so fast that they did not see it. Zhao Wei frowned and looked at the arrogant Shaolin monk. He recalled. It's not just fast. They have a strategy. Just now, the monk with the scar blocked our view with his horse. He swung his pole to grab the ball. We thought the ball was with him, but in fact the ball was in front of him. It had already been in the monk's hand. After listening to Zhao Wei's analysis, Mu Chuan felt that his belief had been subverted. Is it so sneaky? Since the opponent had scored, it was still their turn to kick off. This time, it was Zhao Wei who kicked off. Zhao Wei passed the ball to Mu Chuan, but before Mu Chuan could swing his pole, a Shaolin monk rushed past him. The Shaolin monk took the ball away. Mu Qingchen was attacked from two sides and could not break through. Gu Jiao intercepted the ball with the skills she learned from Su Ping. She passed the ball to Mu Qingchen, and Mu Qingchen passed it to Zhao Wei. Then the ball was lost again. The gong sounded again. Shaolin Academy had scored again. The speed of the Shaolin Academy's goal was so fast that it made one's hair stand on end. It was even faster than the record set by the Horse King. Mu Chuan and Zhao Wei were so tired that they were panting. Mu Qingchen and Gu Jiao also had sweat on their faces. They rode on their horses and waited for the referee to bring the ball over. Mu Chuan panted and said, "What kind of monks are these? Aren't they too fierce? Lulang, why don't you ride your horse over?" Gu Jiao said, "It's still young. It can't be ridden." Mu Chuan muttered, "Didn't we ride it last time?" Mu Qingchen said lightly, "Stop talking." Mu Chuan, "Shut up. This was not a game about the horses, but the people. These monks were too powerful. They all had strong internal energy and were extremely strong. No one could catch the ball they threw. How's your arm?" Mu Qingchen asked Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao intercepted most of the balls just now. Gu Jiao touched her almost numb right arm and said, "It's okay. I'll be fine after some rest." The game began again. Mu Qingqian kicked off. The use of internal energy was prohibited in the bowler game. Otherwise, it would be considered a foul. These young monks had been tempering their bodies all year round, and had developed an indestructible body. Every swing they threw seemed to be imbued with internal energy. As expected, Mu Qingqian's ball was snatched away again. Mu Chuan was the closest. He swung his club to snatch it back. Zhao Wei assisted him from the side. The two of them blocked the Shaolin monks' formation. They were going to get the ball. The Shaolin monks glared at them and swung their clubs. "I'll do it." Mu Chuan stepped forward and caught the ball. At this moment, something unexpected happened. The monk had obviously expected that the ball would be intercepted, so he used a terrifying amount of strength. Mu Chuan's whole body was knocked out. Zhao Wei's expression changed. Mu Chuan. Mu Chuan fell from the horse and fell heavily to the ground. The grassland fell into silence all of a sudden. Another person fell off the horse. Everyone couldn't help but think of Nan Gonglin, who fell off the horse and was trampled. The referee stopped the game. Zhao Wei got off the horse. "Mu Chuan, are you okay?" Mu Chuan clutched his right arm, his face contorted in pain. "Is my arm broken?" Gu Jiao jumped off the horse, squatted down, and held his arm. "It's dislocated. Bear with it." As soon as she finished speaking, she raised her hand and connected Mu Chuan's arm with a crack. Mu Chuan cried out in pain. Wu Fuzi came over and took Mu Chuan away. Yuan Xiao came on. After careful consideration, the referee finally judged that it was an accident. Shaolin Academy did not violate the rules. "Isn't this a violation?" Yuan Xiao said unhappily. "They did it on purpose." He had been watching just now. The monk with 3 scars on his head was aiming at Mu Chuan. He wanted to use the force of the ball to hurt Mu Chuan. Were they like this before? Gu Jiao suddenly asked. Mu Qingqian was the only one who could answer this question. After all, other than him, no one else had seen Shaolin Academy play. Mu Qingqian frowned. They used to be very domineering, but they were not as cruel as today. If not for his better martial arts skills, he would have been knocked off the horse. The reason why he asked Gu Jiao if her arm was all right was because his arm was also injured. This group of Shaolin monks seemed to be deliberately targeting them. Was someone secretly controlling them? In the attic, Prince Ming clapped his hands and cheered. "Beautiful. That's how it should be played. Who brought the Shaolin Academy here? This prince really likes that person." Han sipped his tea unhurriedly. The game started again. Gu Jiao led the horse and walked in front of the referee. Suddenly, she stopped and tilted her head to look at the referee. "Are you sure it's not a violation?" The referee said, "Of course it's not." "Oh." Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows. "So, as long as it's hit by the ball, it's not a violation." The referee frowned. He felt that this statement was not right, so he corrected her. "You can't deliberately attack the opponent with the ball." Mu Chuan was sent flying when he tried to grab the ball. The opponent did not aim at him. "Oh." Gu Jiao said. "If it's not intentional, it's not a violation, right?" "That's right, but it sounded a little strange when it came from your mouth." The referee looked at Gu Jiao strangely. In the end, he could not tell what was wrong. He nodded. "Let's start." Gu Jiao got on the horse. Yuan Xiao kicked off. As soon as Zhao Wei got the ball, it was snatched away by the Shaolin warrior monk. Gu Jiao galloped to catch up. The Shaolin warrior monk was about to swing the club when Gu Jiao suddenly said, "Amit ba." The Shaolin warrior monk was stunned. He almost reflexively took back the club and bowed. "Amit ba." Bang. Gu Jiao hit the ball out with her pole. The Shaolin warrior monk was speechless. Yuan Xiao got the ball and passed it to Zhao Wei. Zhao Wei passed it to Gu Jiao. At this time, they were very close to the opponent's hole. Mu Qingqian was already in position. The Shaolin warrior monk caught up. Gu Jiao was attacked from 2 sides. "Luling." Yuan Xiao shouted not far away. "Give the ball to him, and he will pass it to Mu Qingqian." Gu Jiao did not do that. She took a risk and passed the ball to Mu Qingqian. As expected, it was intercepted. Yuan Xiao sighed. "Oh." It was the warrior monk with the 6-ring scar who intercepted the ball. He wanted to pass the ball to another warrior monk. Gu Jiao stared at the latter. The warrior monk with the 6-ring scar had a fierce look in his eyes. He hit the ball out. He had used almost all of his strength in this stroke. Mu Qingqian knew that things were not going well. This was not the ball he really wanted to pass to his companion. He planned to use the trick he used on Mu Chuan on Gu Jiao. She could not take it head-on. Mu Qingqian wanted to stop it, but it was too late. Gu Jiao stretched out the club. Ah! With a scream, the warrior monk on the right behind Gu Jiao was hit by the polo ball and fell from the horse's back. It turned out that Gu Jiao did reach out the club just now, but not to catch the ball. She touched it gently and changed the direction of the ball. The warrior monk fell hard. His companion shouted, "You broke the rules." Gu Jiao spread her hands. "How did I break the rules? You were the one who hit the ball. You were so strong that you couldn't get it. How can you blame me?" The warrior monks were speechless. The referee ruled that it was an accident and there was no foul. The game continued. The power of the 6-ring scar warrior monk could not be underestimated. This warrior monk fell heavily and temporarily left the stage. Another warrior monk took his place. This warrior monk was slightly weaker, but he opened up a gap for Tianqiong Academy. Before the second section ended, Tianqiong Academy scored a goal. The Shaolin warrior monk seemed to be angry. As soon as the third section began, Yuan Zhao's arm was injured. "Are you okay?" Mu Qingqian asked. Yuan Zhao gritted his teeth and held the club. "I'm fine. I can still continue." They had to continue. They only had 5 people. Mu Chuan couldn't play anymore. If he also went down, they wouldn't have enough people to play. They could only forfeit. Gu Jiao looked at Yuan Zhao's right hand, which was trembling in pain, and her eyes turned cold. She switched the club to her left hand and wrapped the reins around her right hand. Then, she snatched the ball at lightning speed. The monk whose ball was stolen was stunned for a moment. Clearly, he did not expect the opponent to suddenly become so fast. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet can be found here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_89642826/1075210007. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion mobile reading website. zhbqg. Chapter 674. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Ordinary people couldn't imagine how strong a tempered body warrior monk's physique was. Even after being sent flying by that kind of force and landing on the ground, he didn't suffer any internal injuries, and was still able to return to the field. The sound of the gong rang. The monks were still the same, but for some reason, the audience felt as if something had changed. A Wutong Academy student raised his head and scratched his head in confusion. "Why do I feel like the weather is changing?" "I don't think so. The sun is quite bright." His companion looked at the sky and then rubbed his hairs. "It does seem a bit strange." On Tianqiong Academy's stand, Su Shui raised her chin and said to her second sister with pride, "I told you Luleng is very strong." Second young Miss Su glanced at her sister. "Are you here to see fourth brother, or that Xiao Luleng? I only heard you mention Luleng before and after Luleng, but I didn't hear you mention fourth brother." "I am looking at both." Su Shui blushed and looked at the valiant youth on the field. "Didn't he beat the Shaolin martial monk off his horse?" Second young Miss Su said. "Why didn't you say anything when fourth brother scored?" Su Shui pouted. "I said it. You didn't hear it." Second young Miss Su, "Yeah, I'm deaf." Second young Miss Su had been dragged over. She didn't have much interest in the tournament itself, but after watching for a while, she felt that it wasn't bad. That guy called Xiao Luleng didn't have a good appearance, but he had a heroic spirit that made people's blood boil. She couldn't blame her sister for always staring at him. On the opposite side of Tianqiong Academy's stand, Second Master Jing laughed out loud. Yes, Let's fight like that. The Duke's fingertips tapped on the armrest in an irregular pattern. He also seemed very happy. Only Mu Ruxin looked unhappy. She didn't like Xiao Lulang, so she hoped he would lose. Didn't they say that the Shaolin martial monk is very strong? Did he cheat? Second Master Jing didn't like to hear these words. How could he not be able to tell if Xiao Lulang was cheating? Moreover, the referee was also an inner force expert. If Xiao Lulang really dared to break the rules, he would have been sent off by the referee. What is wrong with this Muru Xian? Why would Big Brother want to take this girl as his goddaughter? Thinking of the words his eldest brother wrote on the bedside table, for the first time, Second Master Jing felt that his eldest brother's brain was really damaged. Of all people, why did he have to think about Muru Xian? Second Master Jing didn't know that he had misunderstood his eldest brother's intentions. So when he said that they weren't from the same mother's womb, they really didn't have any tacit understanding. On the field, Gu Jiao snatched the ball again. The Shaolin monk rode his horse over to snatch the ball. Gu Jiao smiled and hit the ball hard again. The Shaolin martial arts monk snorted contemptuously, as if he had expected her to do this. He actually put away the cue stick with a whoosh. Mu Chuan, who was watching the match from the sidelines, grabbed his arm and shouted, F***CK. What kind of sneaky monk is this? He actually tricked Lulang into attacking them. Oh no, they dodged. Liulong's ball was going to go out of bounds. In a while, it would be their turn to kick off the ball. Seeing that the ball was about to go out of bounds, Mu Qingchen suddenly sped up. He stretched out his cue stick and gently hit the ball. The ball flew back into the field. Mu Qingchen's forearm was slightly numb. This guy's strength was too great. He didn't take it directly just now. If he did, he was afraid that he would be sent flying out like the monk with the scar on his face. Gu Jiao narrowed her eyes. Oh, a scheming monk. The green light in her eyes became brighter. The Shaolin martial arts monk who had snatched the ball rushed toward the whole of Tianqiong Academy. He sped up to the extreme. However, as he was running, he suddenly felt a dark shadow coming over. He turned his head and saw Gu Jiao smiling. His eyebrows twitched. It's fine, it's fine. The ball is on my right, and this girl is on my left. She can't snatch it. The next second, Gu Jiao disappeared. The Shaolin martial arts monk. Gu Jiao hooked one foot on the saddle and hung upside down. She hit the Shaolin martial arts monk's horse with the cue stick and sent the ball flying. The Shaolin martial arts monk was stunned. So fast. Are you a ghost? The ball was caught by Zhao Wei. Zhao Wei passed it to Yuan Xiao. And Yuan Xiao passed it to Mu Qingchen. The main attacker of Tianqiong Academy was Mu Qingchen. Usually he was the one who scored the ball. However, Gu Jiao was looking at him while riding the horse. Mu Qingchen was stunned for a moment, and passed the ball to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao drove the ball all the way to the hole of the opponent. This was the only time when the two sides could face each other. The Shaolin martial arts monk stood in front of Gu Jiao defensively. Gu Jiao's flexible waist was full of strength. She raised the cue stick in her hand and hit the ball toward the hole. It was a spinning ball, and it made a humming sound as it spun. The Shaolin martial arts monk shouted and swung his cue stick to block it. Bam! The Shaolin martial arts monk was sent flying. Hiss! Mu Chuan gasped. Gu Jiao looked at the row of Shaolin martial arts monks in front of her. Who's next? They looked at each other in unison. The corners of Gu Jiao's lips curled up as she hit another ball. Bam! Another Shaolin martial arts monk was sent flying. This was not like when they were fighting for the ball in the middle of the game. They could think of ways to attract Gu Jiao to foul. Here, as long as they dared to dodge, Gu Jiao would score the ball. Every time a martial arts monk fell off the horse, the referee would call for a pause and wait for the martial arts monk to get back on the horse before continuing. It was worth mentioning that as long as the bowler did not foul, the game would continue from where it was paused. In other words, Gu Jiao did not even need to move. She could take turns playing with the sandbags. No bowls. The Shaolin martial arts monks were sent flying one after another. Mu Chuan was so relieved that he laughed loudly. Who told you to set me up? Now the tables have turned. The Shaolin martial arts monks were beaten up and finally thought of a way. When they were sent flying, they used the cue stick to hook the ball out. This way it would be judged as out of bounds. Although the opponent would be the one to kick the ball out of bounds, at least they would not be pressed to the hole and be beaten up. But every time the ball was about to fly out, Mu Qingchen would hook it back and look at them coldly. It was as if he was saying, "Continue to be beaten up." The Shaolin martial arts monks were speechless. No more, no more. A Shaolin martial arts monk was sent flying again. He sat on the ground and cried. The scarred martial arts monk was furious. A strong murderous aura erupted from his body. He shook his arms and said fiercely, "Kid, you're courting death." In the stands, Second Master Jing's hand trembled and tea splashed all over his eldest brother's head. Oh no, it's the Shaolin martial arts. Qi enters the body and is invulnerable. Gu Jiao hit the ball into the air. She slapped the saddle and jumped into the air. Then she flipped and hit the falling ball with the cue stick. The scarred martial arts monk said, "Indestructible body." Bang! Ah! The scarred martial arts monk's nose was crooked and his tongue was stuck out. Gu Jiao carried the cue stick on her shoulder. "I don't care if you're indestructible or not." Hey! Mu Qingchen stopped Gu Jiao and signaled the number of flags near the referee stand with his eyes. "Are you done playing?" It was the last part. There were still 9 flags left. Gu Jiao licked the corner of her lips, wishing for more. She had to play. The monks couldn't hold on any longer. Gu Jiao exhausted the arrogance and physical strength of the Shaolin martial arts monks. Then, Tianqiong Academy began to use all their strength. The Shaolin martial arts monks' hands were shaking and they almost couldn't swing the cue stick. At the end of the game, Tianqiong Academy won the game with a score of 13-10. In the side room of the attic, Gu Jiao treated the injuries of Mu Qingchen and the others. After so many games, this was the most serious one. Almost everyone's arms were numb and their palms were bruised. Mu Chuan's arm was hanging from his neck with gauze. From time to time, he helped Gu Jiao pass the wound medicine. These Shaolin martial arts monks are too ruthless. The Shaolin martial arts monks who were just passing by the door staggered. Who was the ruthless one? You're still alive and kicking. We don't even have the strength to walk. The Shaolin martial arts monks were miserable. They were dragged into the side room by the guards. There were a total of 5 martial arts monks. All of them were bruised and swollen. They sat on the chairs to rest, depressed. They couldn't even move their fingers. Suddenly, the door was kicked open with a bang. A demon-like young man appeared at the door with a cold expression. Their bodies trembled. "He's here. He's here. He's here with a cue stick." Gu Jiao patted her palm gently with the cue stick. She glanced at them and asked, "Who sent you?" They were shocked and looked at each other. Gu Jiao said, "What? You don't want to tell me?" "Master Qingchen." The voice of the Lingbo Academy's guard came from outside the door. "The doctor is here." Mu Qingchen said calmly, "No need. I've invited the doctor. He has already gone in to treat the eminent monks of Shaolin Academy. You can go back. The doctor will take good care of them." The martial arts monks widened their eyes in unison. "Don't go. Don't go. Then we'll have to trouble you." The guard left with the doctor. The martial arts monks looked at Gu Jiao in despair. Gu Jiao tilted her head and smiled. Gu Jiao came out of the room and scratched his little back with the cue stick. Phew! Mu Qingchen had been attracted by his little tricks recently and found him adorable for some reason. There was something wrong with this idea. Mu Qingchen decisively cleared his mind and said seriously, "Are you done?" "Yes." Gu Jiao nodded. "They are not real martial arts monks of Shaolin. They are just a group of masters who have been lurking in Shaolin. They secretly learned the skills of Shaolin and secretly used them for the aristocratic families." Mu Qingchen was a little surprised. "Which aristocratic family?" Gu Jiao said, "The Han family." Mu Qingchen frowned. "It's the Han family. It seems that they are targeting the Mu family this time. No wonder they injured Mu Chuan so badly in the beginning." Gu Jiao blinked. "If you insist, I can't help it." Mu Qingchen said, "The Han family and the Mu family have been feuding for a long time, but I really didn't expect that they would dare to attack Mu Chuan and me." Gu Jiao touched the bridge of her nose. Looking at this situation, it seemed that she should ask what kind of feud they had. "Okay, since you are the scapegoat, I will ask. What is the feud between the Han family and the Mu family? At first, it was because of military achievements. Mu Qingchen was more cautious when it came to the Xianyuan family. However, after hesitating for a while, he decided to tell Gu Jiao. Back then, the Xianyuan family rebelled. After they were defeated, their military power was divided into four. The Han family and the Mu family both wanted the Xianyuan family's Black Wind cavalry. The Crown Prince's mansion wanted to win over the Mu family, and used the name of imperial concubine Han to unite the Han family and the Mu family by marriage. However, the day before the wedding, the Han family's legitimate son eloped with his cousin. The Mu family was furious and broke off the engagement. How could there be such a ridiculous thing? However, it is said that there is another reason. What is it? Crown Prince Han's father and my uncle both wanted to be the Crown Princess's husband. Husband? Gu Jiao heard this name for the first time. The Crown Princess's harem? Mu Qingchen was stunned. I guess so. The Crown Prince had a Crown Princess, and the Crown Princess had a husband. Before the Xianyuan family's incident, the Crown Princess was the noble Crown Princess. She was also beautiful. Who didn't want to be her husband? Of course, this was all hearsay. His uncle didn't admit it personally. Gu Jiao asked, who became the Crown Princess's husband in the end? Mu Qingchen shook his head. The Crown Princess didn't have a husband. Gu Jiao asked subconsciously, she didn't have a child? Mu Qingchen said, she did have a child. The Crown Princess went missing for a few years. When she came back, she had a son. The child was 1 month older than Commandery Prince Ming. No one knew who the father was, but as long as he was the Crown Princess's child, he was of royal blood. How old was Commandery Prince Ming? Gu Jiao was confused. Why did she care about Commandery Prince Ming's age? He was a few months younger than me. He was also 19. Mu Qingchen said. 19. Xiao Heng was also 19. What happened later? Gu Jiao asked. Mu Qingchen looked at the bonsai in the yard and said slowly, later, something happened to the Xianyuan family. The Crown Princess seemed to be involved. She was demoted to a commoner and sent to guard the imperial mausoleum. The Crown Princess went with her. The Crown Princess had always been in poor health. It was said that he was poisoned when he was in his mother's womb. The State Master spent a lot of effort to save his life, but his foundation was damaged. 2 years ago, there was a rumor that the Crown Princess didn't have long to live. Have you seen the Crown Princess? Gu Jiao asked. Mu Qingchen shook his head again. The Crown Princess followed the Crown Princess to guard the imperial mausoleum when he was very young. Except for returning to the Master Hall every 2 years to treat his illness, he almost never stayed in Chengdu. I didn't have the chance to see him. Gu Jiao looked thoughtful. Mu Qingchen thought of something. He hesitated for a moment and said, there was a rumor about the Crown Princess a few years ago. Gu Jiao asked, what rumor? Mu Qingchen frowned and said, it said that the Crown Princess wasn't the Crown Princess's son. Fourth brother. Lulang, why are you still here? The competition is about to start. Mu Chuan walked over with his arm in a sling. Whether it was the Xianyuan family or the Crown Princess, they were all taboos in Chengdu. Mu Qingchen obviously didn't want Mu Chuan to join the conversation. He glanced at Gu Jiao and said, let's go and watch the competition. Gu Jiao said, okay. Next was the competition between the Lingbo Academy and the Canaan Academy. Both academies were very good at archery. Compared to Gu Jiao's various tricks, the second round of archery was obviously more normal. Gu Jiao and the others sat next to Dean Xian Su Shui, and the second miss of the Su family were also there. Su Shui glanced at the boy next to her fourth brother and giggled. The second miss of the Su family looked at the silly boy next to her speechlessly, and quietly moved to the other side. She had to sit further away to avoid being infected by her sister. As the saying went, the layman enjoyed the show while the expert appreciated the skill. The atmosphere of the Tianqiong Academy was always high, but the Lingbo Academy and the Canaan Academy definitely contributed the best skills so far. Mu Qingchen explained to Gu Jiao. The Lingbo Academy is a century-old academy in Chengdu, and the Canaan Academy is an academy run by the State Preceptor Hall. I heard that the state preceptor named them. Gu Jiao touched her chin. No wonder they named them like that. Mu Qingchen was puzzled. What's wrong with the name? Nothing. Gu Jiao couldn't explain to him the tacit understanding of time-traveling people. Mu Qingchen's attention returned to the archery field. They were holding back before, but today they went all out. This is their true strength. Both sides fought very cleanly, without any underhanded tricks that could not be brought to the table. The archery skills of the Tianqiong Academy were far inferior to theirs. It was not something that could be made up for by practicing at the last minute. In fact, it was a miracle that they could go all the way to the last round. Of course, it was all thanks to someone's various tricks. Mu Qingchen said solemnly, "We don't have a good chance of winning the next round. We have to train harder these days." Gu Jiao said calmly, "We didn't want to win anyway." Mu Qingchen looked at her strangely. Gu Jiao cleared her throat and said without changing her expression, "Let's not put too much pressure on ourselves. Our homework is already so heavy, so let's not make ourselves anxious. Second place is not bad either." What a joke. The reward for second place was 1,000 taels of gold. Who would want to see the emperor in first place? She wanted them to win without doing anything. Mu Qingchen. What kind of person was this? At the end of the round, the Lingbo Academy lost by 2 flags. The Lingbo Academy was the academy of little Jing Kong. Gu Jiao felt sorry for them. 2 seconds, no more than that. When the competition ended, the people of the Tianqiong Academy and the Canaan Academy met. As expected of the students of the Grand Preceptor Hall, each of them had an imposing appearance and a heroic spirit. The people of the Canaan Academy had the arrogance of the Grand Preceptor Hall, and did not intend to get acquainted with the people of the Tianqiong Academy. They just glanced at them indifferently and walked away. Gu Jiao suddenly said to them, "I have high hopes for you guys. Do your best in the next round and don't show any mercy. First place is yours." Everyone from the Canaan Academy. Everyone from the Tianqiong Academy. Fourth brother. Su Shui ran over while lifting her dress. She quickly glanced at Gu Jiao and pretended to say to Mu Qingchen, "Fourth brother, are you guys going back so soon?" Mu Qingchen looked at her. Su Shui's eyes flashed and said, "I mean, it's rare for you to come back to the inner city. I haven't seen you for a few days. It's almost lunchtime. Why don't we have a meal together? There's a new restaurant nearby. Second sister and I haven't eaten there yet. Am I right, second sister?" The second young lady of the Su family was stunned by Su Shui's question. "What?" Mu Qingchen sighed and turned to his companions. "You guys go back first." Su Shui glared at him. "No, fourth brother." Mu Qingchen could not bring his 2 sisters to eat at the same table with several men. However, he could not refuse his sister's request and could only stay. Su Shui watched as Gu Jiao and Mu Chuan got on their horses. She felt so wrong that she pursed her lips. Mu Qingchen looked at his sister who was about to cry in confusion and asked, "Didn't you want to eat?" "She did not want to eat with you." Su Shui stomped her feet and left in a huff. Gu Jiao did not leave the Lingbo Academy. I'm going to buy something. You guys go back first. I'll catch up with you later." Mu Chuan asked, "Should we wait for you?" Gu Jiao said, "No, I can catch up with you." Mu Chuan agreed. "Okay, we'll go first." "What's wrong?" President Sin asked. Mu Chuan rode beside the carriage and said, "Lulang said he's going to buy something and told us to go first. He'll catch up with us later." President Sin said, "He doesn't have the inner city talisman. If he can't catch up with us, we won't be able to leave the city. Forget it, we'll just wait for him at the city gate." Gu Jiao rode towards the Kanglan Women's Academy. When she passed by a small alley, she saw a carriage parked there. Gu Jiao walked over and got off the horse. She handed the horse's reins to the coachman. The coachman understood and led the horse away. Gu Jiao got on the carriage. "You're pretty fast," Xiao Heng said with a slight smile. Gu Jiao said, "I'm going to meet my husband. I have to be fast." Xiao Heng raised his slender fingers and brushed the hair on her temples. "I thought you didn't understand." Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows and said, "I can still understand a beauty's gaze." Xiao Heng smiled gently. His fingers slid down and held her hand. Are you hurt? Even if he didn't know how to bow, he could tell that something was wrong today. Gu Jiao shook her head. I'm not hurt. What happened? Xiaoheng asked worriedly. Gu Jiao told him about how Han Che came to ask her for a horse and was beaten up by her. Those martial monks are from the Han family. Xiaoheng thought for a while. No wonder the heir of the Han family came today. Gu Jiao asked. The heir of the Han family came. Yes, he came with Prince Ming. Xiaoheng said. I asked Prince Ming's maid. That person is the heir of the Han family, Han Che's older brother. Gu Jiao touched her chin. Oh, he actually dared to come. It's getting late. Classes in Jingkong should be over. I have to go pick him up. Xiaoheng said. He saw Gu Jiao narrowing her eyes and looking like she was going to cause trouble. He said, You're not going to cause trouble for him, are you? Of course not. Gu Jiao opened her eyes wide and blinked. She was very obedient. Xiaoheng watched as she grabbed the sack behind her. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1075025228. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 675. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels can be read for free. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet can be found here. Xiaoheng held his forehead helplessly. This girl, he couldn't stop her from going. She agreed very well and slipped away immediately. Gu Jiao was the easiest person to talk to at home, because she was very tolerant of her family. She had a different standard for outsiders. The Shaolin monks invited by Han injured all the fighters of Tianqiong Academy. She wouldn't be Gu Jiao if she just let it go. She was a young wolf facing an adult tiger. Even if she couldn't defeat it, she had to bite off a piece of meat. This was her courage that was engraved in her bones. She didn't want to go against the Han family to avoid their revenge. The moment Han Che coveted the Horse King, the enmity between the two sides had been set. People from a lower country had no status in a higher country. If the Han family wanted something, they could just take it away. However, Gu Jiao was definitely not a lamb that could be slaughtered by others. No one could take it away from her. She wouldn't allow it, and neither would Xiaoheng. That's all for the morning class. In the gifted class of Lingbo Academy, Teacher Lu finished the last poem and dismissed the class. Because they were all children, most of them were picked up by adults. Little Jingkong was the youngest in the class, but he was also the one who looked the most like a little adult. The other children all rushed out of the classroom, but he was still sitting in his seat, calmly packing his school bag. In fact, what he meant by packing was that he stuffed the textbook into his bag without any order. When he went back, Xiaoheng had to rearrange it for him. But even so, the little clear sky was still very slow. It was even slower than a tortoise. The gifted class of the academy had a rule that the students could only leave after the teacher finished. After all, they were all children. They were afraid that something would happen. Teacher Lu sat in the lecture hall and watched the little guy slowly packing his bag. The dignified scholar was so anxious that his feet trembled. He wasn't hungry, nor was he in a hurry. It was just that the child's slow movements made him anxious. Couldn't it be faster? After waiting for a while, Master Lu seriously suspected that the time it took to brew a cup of tea had passed, but the child had not even received half of it. Master Lu couldn't hold it in any longer. He said to little Jingkong, "Jingkong, I'll take it for you." Little Jingkong said seriously, "No, I have to do my own things. I'm not a kid anymore." Master Lu was going crazy. If you're not a child, who is? You're the youngest in class, okay? I've been a teacher for 20 years. And this is the first time I've accepted such a young student. Master Lu stretched his legs and changed his sitting position. Little Jing Kong continued to tidy up slowly. Master Lu changed his sitting position again. Little Jing Kong was still being cleaned up. Master Lu's blood pressure was about to rise. Finally, Little Jing Kong was cleaned up. Master Lu heaved a sigh of relief and thanked the heavens. Crash. Little Jing Kong poured out the books from the bag again. I can't find something. Looking at the small mountain of books on the table, Master Lu's eyes finally rolled back and he fell backwards. Little Jing Kong was taken away by Master Chung. Master Chung held Little Jing Kong's hand and walked out of the classroom. He said to Little Jing Kong in a pleasant manner, "I'll take you out for lunch today." Master Chung was a teacher at Lingbo Academy. He was very accomplished in calligraphy. Xiao Heng had asked him to teach Little Jing Kong how to write. Little Jing Kong was the top student in every subject except for his calligraphy. He had learned a lot from Gu Jiao. Oh, Little Jing Kong's reaction was very calm. Master Chung was speechless. Why did he feel that this child was a little soulless today? The boxing competition was over. He had left without seeing Jiao Jiao. His little soul also left with Jiao Jiao. He was now a soulless Little Jing Kong. Crown Prince Han and Prince Ming went to the entrance of the academy after coming out of the attic. Prince Ming's carriage and Crown Prince Han's horse were already waiting outside. "I'll send you back first," said Crown Prince Han. "Thank you, cousin," said Prince Ming with a smile. Crown Prince Han mounted the horse and escorted Prince Ming back to the Crown Prince's residence. Prince Ming lifted the curtain of the carriage and said to Crown Prince Han, "Cousin." Crown Prince Han looked at the road ahead and turned to look at him. "What's the matter?" Prince Ming said, "I haven't finished what I was reading just now. What do you mean by His Majesty doesn't care about his birthday anymore?" Crown Prince Han looked ahead with deep eyes and said, "Either he has forgiven the Crown Princess, or he has completely cut off his father-daughter relationship with the Crown Princess. From the current situation, the latter is more likely." Prince Ming muttered, "Then why didn't Imperial Grandfather abolish his title?" When the Emperor abolished the Crown Princess and sent her to the Imperial Mausoleum, he didn't punish the Crown Princess. However, the Crown Princess insisted on following his mother. Hence the Emperor said, "If you dare to leave, I'll take it that I don't have a grandson like you." The Crown Princess left. Theoretically, this meant that the Crown Princess had cut off all ties with the Emperor. Since that day, the Emperor never mentioned the Crown Princess again. Hence, many people thought that the Emperor didn't recognize the Crown Princess anymore. However, the Emperor didn't issue an imperial edict to abolish the Crown Princess's title. So, was he still the Crown Princess? No one dared to question the monarch, and no one dared to guess his thoughts. After all, being called the Emperor's eldest grandson was an unlucky title. The Crown Prince ordered his subordinates to keep their mouths shut, and not let them address Commandery Prince Ming as His Highness' eldest grandson. Prince Ming snorted. "I was born the Crown Princess's grandson. However, the Crown Princess brought back a child who was half a month older than me. He took away my identity as the Crown Princess's grandson. Even in his dreams, he wanted to be openly addressed as His Highness Zhongsun." Crown Prince Han said seriously, "You don't have to think about him anymore. A verbal edict is also an imperial edict. If His Majesty said that he doesn't recognize him, then he won't recognize him. You are the Crown Princess of the Yen Kingdom. The entire Han family is your backing." That's right. The entire Han family was his backing. How could a bastard with an unknown father compete with him? Thinking of something, Commandery Prince Ming asked mysteriously, "Cousin, do you think that the rumor is true?" Crown Prince Han glanced at him and asked, "What rumor?" Prince Ming gestured to the brocade guards accompanying him. The brocade guards surrounded the carriage and didn't allow anyone to get close. Prince Ming then said softly, "He is a child that the Crown Princess brought back from outside. He is not the Crown Princess's flesh and blood. If this was true, then this fellow would have no chance of being the Crown Princess's grandson." Crown Prince Han frowned and said seriously, "Prince Ming, you better not say these things. This concerns the reputation of the royal family. If His Majesty blames you, you won't be able to bear the consequences." Prince Ming's scalp went numb when he thought of the temperamental and cruel His Majesty. Crown Prince Han pursed his thin lips. This cousin of his was good at everything. He was also talented in learning. However, he was spoiled and had a bad temper. Prince Ming, how are your studies going? He asked. Prince Ming said, it's going well. The Grand Tutor just praised me and said that I wrote a good essay. However, I don't understand why Father doesn't allow me to show off my talents in front of Grandfather. This was the Emperor's quirk. He didn't like people who were too smart. Crown Prince Han could only say, since His Highness the Crown Prince has given this order, he must have his reasons. Prince Ming, just follow his orders. In fact, Prince Ming wasn't the only son of the Crown Prince. However, he was the legitimate son. In addition, the Crown Princess was also from the Han family. Therefore, the Han family valued Prince Ming and didn't want him to make any mistakes. Prince Ming sighed. Crown Prince Han's words were always watertight. He couldn't get any information out of him, even if he wanted to. Prince Ming didn't want to talk anymore. He was about to put down the curtain when suddenly, a familiar figure of a woman appeared on the street. He recognized her at a glance. It was the maid he sent to serve Miss Gu. The maid looked at him as if she had something to report. He couldn't let his cousin know that he was pursuing a female student from Kanglin Academy. His cousin would definitely report it to Father. If that happened, he would be in trouble. He coughed softly and said to Crown Prince Han, "Cousin, I want to go to the washroom." Crown Prince Han nodded. Prince Ming asked someone to stop the carriage. He walked towards the tea house that the maid had just entered. After making sure that Crown Prince Han couldn't see him, he called the maid to him. "Why did Miss Gu suddenly come to see me? What's the matter?" The maid said respectfully, "Miss Gu said that she wants to see you." Prince Ming's eyes lit up. "Is that true?" The maidservant smiled and said, "It's absolutely true. Originally, the event had already ended and Miss Gu had also left. However, she suddenly returned and said that she wanted to thank the county king for booking the arena for her. She had made a painting and wanted to personally give it to the county king." Royal Prince Ming laughed excitedly. "She's finally willing to see me. She even wants to give me a gift. It seems that I was right to reveal my identity." The maid said, "You are the Crown Prince's legitimate son and the eldest grandson of Dian's emperor. She is just a commoner. How would she dare to reject your pursuit?" Prince Ming's eyes darkened. "You are not allowed to disrespect her." The maid quickly lowered her head. It was a slip of the tongue. Prince Ming put his hands behind his back and looked at the endless stream of people. He smiled wantonly. "As long as she obeys me, I will give her an identity from Shangzhou. Yubin Pavilion, right?" The maid hesitated for a moment and advised, "Prince Han, Crown Prince Han is outside. Isn't it inappropriate for you to meet Miss Gu like this?" There was indeed some trouble with his cousin. However, Prince Ming had been pursuing the beauty for a long time. The beauty didn't even look at him. He was worried that if he missed today, the beauty would ignore him the next time. After a moment of hesitation, he finally forced himself to lie to Crown Prince Han. "Cousin, I met a friend in the tea house. You don't have to send me off. I will go back to the residence later." After saying this, he suppressed the nervousness in his heart and tried to make himself look magnanimous and calm. Crown Prince Han didn't seem to notice anything amiss. He nodded. "Then be careful." Prince Ming smiled. "I will. There are so many brocade guards." After Crown Prince Han left, Prince Ming couldn't wait to go to the Yubin Pavilion nearby. Xiao Heng was waiting in a room on the second floor near the street. Prince Ming entered the room in high spirits. 6 brocade guards guarded the door vigilantly. These 6 guards were not to be underestimated. They were all top experts in the Crown Prince's residence. Otherwise, Xiao Heng wouldn't have thought of a way to lure them away from Crown Prince Han. However, even if Crown Prince Han was alone, he was still not easy to deal with. His martial arts were so high that even the Shadow Dragon guards were no match for him. Therefore, they had to use some auxiliary methods to weaken his strength. Crown Prince Han rode into the alley on his horse. He wasn't riding on the Black Wind King. The Black Wind King was too powerful. It would scare the other horses away on the street, causing unnecessary accidents and panic. He took a few steps and suddenly pulled on the reins. He tilted his head slightly and glanced behind him. Who's there? Come out. On the roof, Gu Jiao moved her fingertips and 3 Tanghua needles flew out. Crown Prince Han jumped up from his horse and flipped in the air. The 3 Tanghua needles were nailed to the wall beside him. What a powerful qinggong. What an agile speed. Gu Jiao looked at him indifferently. Crown Prince Han didn't get back on his horse after dodging the Tanghua needles. Instead, he stood steadily on the ground. He looked in the direction where the Tanghua needles came from. Gu Jiao didn't give him a chance to see her clearly. She shot another Tanghua needle. This time there were 10 needles. Crown Prince Han pulled out the sword at his waist and activated his internal energy. The sword flashed and blocked all the Tanghua needles. Gu Jiao didn't shoot Tanghua needles anymore. She changed to darts. The darts were made by Mistress Nan. They were more powerful than the Tanghua needles. However, they were all blocked by Crown Prince Han effortlessly. Mistress Nan was very fond of him. One could tell by looking at the hidden weapons. Gu Jiao shot more than 10 kinds of hidden weapons. Some were not poisonous, and some were poisonous. However, none of the hidden weapons successfully hurt Crown Prince Han. Crown Prince Han had more or less figured out his opponent's strength. He snorted disdainfully. He tapped his toes and swung his sword toward the roof. Gu Jiao's lips curved slightly. She moved her hands at the same time, and shot out another round of hidden weapons. Crown Prince Han was fearless. He swung his sword and slashed. Bang! 6 black fire pearls exploded mercilessly. Crown Prince Han was stunned by the explosion. His body stopped in midair. He had already flown to the roof and saw the masked young man who had attacked him. The young man was only inches away from him. Now was the time. Gu Jiao raised her leg coldly and kicked him down. With a loud bang, Crown Prince Han fell to the ground like a small mountain. The hard bluestone floor cracked. His sword flew out of his hand and hit the corner of the street. It was stuck in a crack in the wall. Crown Prince Han was in great pain. He covered his chest and stood up with a fierce look in his eyes. Gu Jiao narrowed her eyes slightly. So many black fire pearls and double the effect of the knockout drug. You can still get up? Then I'll give you 6 more black fire pearls. What a waste of black fire pearls. Gu Jiao threw 6 more black fire pearls at him. After that, she used half a vial of neurotoxin to make him collapse. However, a tuft of his hair was still stubbornly sticking up. It was as if he had an unyielding will. Haha. Gu Jiao flattened his hair with a slap and put him into a gunny sack. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896/1074850882. HTML Genius memorized the website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 676. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. More novels are updated faster. More than 1 million novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet. In a room of a tea house, 3 scholars were drinking tea and reciting poems. One of them suddenly put down the brush in his hand and said with a strange expression, "Did you hear a strange sound?" His companion opposite him said, "No." His companion beside him listened carefully and frowned. "Seems like there is." He hurriedly said, "Right? Did you hear it too?" The scholar who didn't hear it just now also opened his eyes wide. I heard it too." Soon, the 3 of them not only heard it, but also felt it thoroughly. The 3 of them sat on the cushion together. The floor shook, and the 4 treasures of the study on the table shook. Is someone hitting the ground with a hammer? Or is the earth dragon turning over? With a loud duong sound, the calligraphy on the table fell to the ground. The three of them hugged each other in fear. This punch was for Mu Chuan's arm. This punch was for Mu Qingqian's internal injury. This punch was for Zhao Wei and Yuan Zhao's hand injury. Erhan was actually conscious. It had to be said that his physique and skills were really strong. If she hadn't used some tricks, she wouldn't have been able to take him down. Gu Jiao really wanted to kill him. However, before she could draw her sword, the masters of the Han family came. Gu Jiao felt the breath of the men of sacrifice. There was more than one of them, and they were all stronger than Tian Lang. Well, she couldn't beat them. It was never too late for a gentleman to fight. Gu Jiao decisively put away the sack and ran away. Xiaoheng came out of the Yubin restaurant. His carriage was parked in the alley diagonally across the street. The coachman was a servant he bought after he came to Chengdu. He was loyal to him and could be trusted. As soon as he got into the carriage, Gu Jiao rushed in panting. Phew! It was obvious how fast she ran just now. What's wrong? Xiaoheng asked. Did something happen? Or did someone find out? Gu Jiao thought for a moment and shook her head. No, I didn't find anything. Did an expert from the Han clan come? Xiaoheng speculated. Gu Jiao twiddled her fingers and said seriously. It doesn't matter if he's an expert or not. The main thing is that we don't have enough sacks. Xiaoheng. I'll send you to the southern city gate, Xiaoheng said. No, I'll go by myself. Gu Jiao wasn't sure if Erhan would suspect her, and she didn't want Xiaoheng to be exposed. Xiaoheng understood her thoughts and said, Don't worry. They won't suspect you. Although Gu Jiao and Han Che had a grudge against each other, it was impossible for Han Shixi to guess that it was Gu Jiao who did this. Gu Jiao was bold, but Han Shixi would never have expected her to be so bold. Gu Jiao was good at fighting, but Han Shixi would never have expected her to be so good. There were also two very important points: the Black Fire Pearl and her identity as a citizen. The Black Fire Pearl was something that only the royal family of the Yan Kingdom and the top aristocratic families had. Everyone knew that it would never appear in the hands of a citizen. The identity of a citizen was a double-edged sword. There were too many unfairness, but it was also a natural camouflage. How's Prince Ming? Gu Jiao asked. He's drunk and resting in the restaurant, Xiaoheng said. Prince Ming thought that he could take advantage of the beauty, but Xiaoheng poured him a cup of strong wine and made him drunk. He was the one who got drunk, so the brocade guards couldn't blame Xiaoheng. Xiaoheng casually left behind a small piece of useless graffiti and left in a dignified manner. Gu Jiao took off the mask on her face and took off the black clothes on her body. She changed back into Tianqiong Academy's uniform. Xiaoheng very gentlemanly turned his face away and looked elsewhere. After changing, Gu Jiao stared at him for 2 seconds and said, Why is your face red again? I'm just changing my outer clothes. Xiaoheng cleared his throat and said seriously, The weather is hot. Xiaoheng sent Gu Jiao all the way to the vicinity of the southern city gate. Gu Jiao didn't have a talisman for the inner city. Xiaoheng wanted to give her his talisman, but he didn't expect to see people from Tianqiong Academy. They were all waiting for her. It seemed that she had made a few true friends in the academy. Xiaoheng patted her head and said, Go. Okay. Gu Jiao got off the carriage and rode her horse to the tea stall near the city gate. Dinsen and the others were there. Seeing Gu Jiao come over, Dinsen's heart settled down. Earlier, his eyelids had been twitching. He was afraid that this brat had gone out and caused trouble again. He couldn't be blamed for being so worried. In the history of Tianqiong Academy, this brat was the only one who had gotten 2 demerits in the first 10 days of school. Are you done? Dinsen didn't ask what Gu Jiao had done. Students could have their own privacy as long as they didn't break the law. Gu Jiao, who had just returned from breaking the law, said calmly, I'm done. Let's eat something before going back. Dinsen wanted to eat back at the academy. The cafeteria was cheaper than outside, so he could save some money. However, everyone seemed to be starving. Forget it, let's eat first. The group found a nearby noodle restaurant and had lunch. No one came to seal the city. It seemed that the Han family hadn't guessed that it was her. Gu Jiao happily got on her horse. Yuan Shao glanced at her and said, Lu Lang, I feel that you are particularly refreshed. Did you just do that? Gu Jiao didn't understand. What? Yuan Shao looked around and said in a low voice, That. What? Gu Jiao still didn't understand. Zhao Wei said bluntly, going to the brothel to look for girls. Men are like that after having fun. Gu Jiao thought for a moment. Oh, it was quite fun. Yuan Shao was just casually asking. He didn't expect Gu Jiao to admit it. His body trembled. So you really went to the brothel? How could you do that? You didn't even bring us along to look for girls. You're too disloyal. Aren't we all good brothers? Yuan Shao clenched his teeth and said in a low voice, Bring me along next time. Zhao Wei coughed. Bring me along too. Gu Yan and Gu Shaoshan didn't go to watch the game today. It wasn't because they didn't want to go, nor was it because Gu Yan's body didn't allow it. It was because Mistress Nam poisoned herself again. Master Lu went to fight with the Horse King, and successfully crippled herself again. It was a bit serious. The two brothers stayed to take care of them. Gu Shaoshan mainly took care of them. Gu Yan was responsible for basking in the sun and drinking tea with Meng Lao. Of course, he occasionally played a game of chess with Meng Lao. Gu Yan liked to play chess, but his chess skills were far worse than Gu Jiao's. Meng Lao was badly battered. But Gu Jiao said that if Meng Lao played a game of chess with Gu Yan, Gu Jiao would play a game with Meng Lao when she came back. In order to play chess with Gu Jiao, Meng Lao was really going all out. Gu Yan's chess skills were terrible from head to toe. Meng Lao finally couldn't take it anymore. He broke down and said, Why did you play here again? Didn't I teach you a few times that you should play 16th out of 7ths? Your chess skills are so terrible. It's almost on par with that Xian Yuan Cheng. Gu Yan had heard this name many times. Every time the old man disliked his chess skills, he would drag this person out and torture him. Who is Xian Yuan Cheng? He asked. Meng Lao waved his hand. Someone who shouldn't be mentioned. Gu Yan raised his eyebrows. Then why do you keep mentioning it? Meng Lao choked. Didn't I make you angry and confused? Gu Yan was at the rebellious age. The more he wasn't allowed to mention it, the more curious he became. He asked, Does that Xianyuan guy know how to play chess like me? Kid, do you have some misunderstanding about the 3 words know how to play chess? Sigh. Meng Lao actually had a lot to say in his heart. In Chengdu, he couldn't mention it to anyone else. The funny thing was that this place where he met by chance became the only place where he could speak freely. He said, I taught that kid for a few days. I almost died of anger. He's even more stupid than you. Gu Yan's face darkened. I'll tell my sister. You said I'm stupid. Meng Lao, don't tell her. That girl will deduct the chess pieces. Meng Lao endured the humiliation and said, he's stupid. You're smart. Gu Yan was satisfied. He asked again, Which one is he? The rest or the blooming Sheng? Neither. Meng Lao dipped his fingertip in water and wrote on the stone table. It's this Sheng. Gu Yan. Oh. Meng Lao said. It wasn't this name in the early years. It was Xianyuan Hao. He fell into the water several times when he was young. He went to the Grand Master Hall for divination. The Grand Master Hall said that he was incompatible with the water and asked him to change his name to Sheng. So he was called Xianyuan Cheng. Meng Lao's eyes were a little more melancholy as he recalled the past. But it didn't take long for the Horse King to come over with the reins in its mouth. The Horse King threw the reins to Meng Lao in disdain. It's time for the old man to leave again. Digression, it's almost the end of the month again. Don't forget to vote. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896/1074842799. HTML Genius memorized this site's address in a second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugu mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 677. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more interesting content. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that could not be found online are available here. In a room in the guest house, Prince Ming suddenly woke up from his drunken dream. He opened his eyes and moved his body. He realized that he was lying on the table. Had he fallen asleep just like that? It was already dark outside, and the beauty in the room was gone. He stood up, but his legs were numb, and he fell to the ground with a thud. The embroidered uniform guards outside heard the commotion in the room and quickly rushed in. "Your Highness." They bowed in unison. The leader of the group walked forward and helped Commandery Prince Ming up. Prince Ming was in great pain from the fall, and his head felt like it was about to explode. "What's wrong with me?" He held his forehead and asked angrily. The embroidered uniform guards helped him back to the stool. No, my butt hurts." He had been sitting on a wooden stool for an entire afternoon. Even an iron butt would not be able to withstand the pain. There was no bed for him to lie on. The leader of the embroidered uniform guards had no choice but to ask his companions to help him sit on each side. Although this was not comfortable, at least his butt would not suffer. Where is Miss Gu?" Prince Ming asked as he held his head that was about to explode. The leader of the embroidered uniform guards replied, "After you got drunk, Miss Gu left." "What? You let her leave just like that?" "Your Highness, you did not ask us to keep her." "Wasn't it because I thought she would leave? Are your brains made of wood?" Prince Ming choked. Seriously, he had gotten drunk at such a good time. Prince Ming wanted to blame the beauty, but when he thought of her cold personality, he felt that he had left her in a fit of anger because he was drunk. "Didn't you say you would give me a painting?" "Your Highness, is this it?" One of the embroidered uniform guards picked up a piece of paper on the table. Normally, a painting given to someone of Commandery Prince Ming's status would be framed in a scroll. However, this was only a piece of paper and it was slightly wrinkled. She did not know what had happened. Prince Ming asked someone to bring the painting over. He took a closer look and his mouth could not close. What's all this nonsense about? Was this the standard of a beauty's painting? How did he manage to do that? This was too, forget it, he didn't like her because she could draw. Her beauty was what truly moved him. If she didn't know how to draw, then so be it. At most, he would teach her in the future. Yes, that's right, he could use the opportunity of teaching the beauty to invite her again. He believed that she wouldn't refuse. As this thought flashed through his mind, the haze in Prince Ming's heart was swept away and he instantly felt refreshed. Just as Royal Prince Ming was happily putting away the beauty's painting, the coachman suddenly came up and reported at the door, "Royal Prince, something has happened to Heir Han." In a quiet courtyard of the Han family, servant girls came out of the main room with basins of bloody water. Han Shixi's injuries were too horrible to look at. The doctor spent almost an hour just cleaning his wounds. Fortunately, his internal energy was profound and his foundation was not damaged. However, it was still very humiliating. He sat on the chair with a cold expression, while Han Yong sighed and stood by his side. "I want you to lie on the bed for a while," Han Yong said. "No need." Han Shixi was bare-chested. He covered his chest and gritted his teeth. Han Yong sighed. "Why are you so stubborn? If you're injured, you have to lie down." Han Shixi's eyes were cold. "I said no need." Second uncle didn't argue with him on this topic. Instead, he asked, "Who did this? How could they injure you like this?" Han Shixi's martial arts were absolutely unbeatable among his peers in Chengdu. Those who were older than him wouldn't easily attack a junior. Han Shixi recalled the masked teenager he saw on the roof. He also felt that he was unfamiliar. If there was such a young master in Chengdu, it was impossible for him not to have heard of him. However, the opponent didn't rely on martial arts to defeat him. It was a scheme in gunpowder. First, he used countless hidden weapons to make Han Shixi think that Han Shixi was carrying hidden weapons. This caused him to choose not to dodge when the opponent threw the gunpowder. Han Shixi recalled he used gunpowder. Han Yong suddenly understood. So it was gunpowder. No wonder it could hurt you. Wait, gunpowder? Isn't gunpowder something that only the State Preceptor Hall has? Han Shixi shook his head. It's true that gunpowder was invented by the State Preceptor Hall, but it's already used in the military. The aristocratic families can also get their hands on it. Han Yong pondered for a moment and said, the control of gunpowder is very strict. It's not easy to get it. Han Shitzi didn't deny this point. The gunpowder was mixed with knockout drugs. Also, he used something on me in the end. It wasn't knockout drugs, but it made me unable to move. Han Yong pondered. Gunpowder, unknown poison. Was it really done by the State Preceptor Hall? Han Shitzi said, I have no enmity with the State Preceptor Hall. Why would they do this to me? Han Yong nodded. That's true. The State Preceptor Hall didn't collude with any forces, nor did they have conflicts with any forces. To be exact, no aristocratic family dared to have conflicts with the State Preceptor Hall. Naturally, the State Preceptor Hall didn't bother to make things difficult for any aristocratic family. Han Shitzi asked the servant at the door, Where's the Commandery Prince? Hasn't he arrived yet? Just as he finished speaking, Commandery Prince Ming arrived. Han Yong saluted Commandery Prince Ming. Han Yong was the son of a concubine in the Han family. In terms of status, he couldn't be compared to the direct descendants. Commandery Prince Ming nodded slightly. His attitude towards Han Yong was naturally different from his attitude towards Han Shitzi. All of you may leave. Second uncle, you stay. The servants left one by one and closed the door. Only the three of them were left in the room. Commandery Prince Ming looked at Han Shitzi, who was covered in wounds. Although he had heard that Han Shitzi was injured on the way here, he was still shocked when he saw him in person. Cousin, who injured you like this? Han Shitzi didn't answer his question. Instead he asked, Let me ask you, who did you meet today? Huh. Commandery Prince Ming was stunned. Han Shitzi said sternly, Are you going to tell me honestly, or do you want me to capture your maidservant? Commandery Prince Ming's pupils contracted. Cousin actually saw that maidservant? Han Shitzi snorted coldly. Or I can report this to the Crown Prince and let him ask you personally. Commandery Prince Ming pleaded, Cousin, please don't tell my father. If my father finds out, he will kill me. The Crown Prince was very strict with Commandery Prince Ming. He didn't allow him to do anything that would disgrace his reputation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have hidden his identity from the beauty for so long. Han Shitzi said, If you don't want me to find the Crown Prince, tell me honestly. Who did you meet today? What did you do? Commandery Prince Ming had no choice but to tell Han Shitzi everything that happened. Cousin, you promised me that you can't let my father find out. Han Shitzi said indifferently. Men send Commandery Prince Ming back to his residence. Yes. After Commandery Prince Ming left, Han Shitzi closed his eyes in frustration and asked, Second uncle, what do you think? Han Yong said, That student from the Kanglan Women's Academy must have something to do with this. She purposely lured Commandery Prince Ming and the 6 embroidered uniform guards away. Han Shitzi's eyes were deep as he said, Since second uncle thinks so, then we have to investigate this person. It was a dark and windy night. Little Jing Kong had already fallen asleep on the soft bed in one of the bedrooms of the Kanglan Women's Academy's Linglong Pavilion. He opened his little mouth and snored evenly. Xiao Heng called Little Nine and asked it to guard Little Jing Kong. Then, he went to the gatehouse and gave the gatekeeper 1 tael of silver to let her sit in his room. Little Jing Kong usually didn't wake up. However, if he woke up halfway, it was always good to have someone around. Whether something happened to him or not was one thing, but whether he was scared or not was another. After doing all this, Xiao Heng put on his cloak, hat, and veil. Then he sneaked out of the academy. On a big tree, a man in black gave his companion a look and said, Let's go. Follow me. Xiao Heng's carriage stopped in front of a pawn shop on Huayang Street. Xiao Heng got out of the carriage. The clerk of the pawn shop was closing the door and said, We are closing now. Come back tomorrow. Xiao Heng took out a piece of paper and handed it to him. I want to see your shopkeeper. The clerk was slightly stunned when he saw this sentence. Then he looked at him carefully. Xiao Heng was wearing a veil, but it didn't affect his unique beauty. Some people could charm everyone with just a pair of eyes. The clerk swallowed his saliva. Then he saw that Xiao Heng's black cloak revealed a bit of the Kanglan Women's Academy's uniform. He said in a daze, "Please wait a moment." The clerk rushed in. He could hear the conversation between him and the shopkeeper. "Who is it? It's so late." "A girl. She wants to see you. She seems to be very powerful. Her aura is very strong." The clerk ran out with a smile and said to Xiao Heng, "Please." Han had his own intelligence network. Naturally, the people he sent wouldn't be bad. Except for the time when they followed Gu Jiao, they all completed their tasks perfectly. Sun Feng and Zheng Hai are back. The guard outside the door reported. "Let them in," Han said. Han Yong took a sip of tea. The two of them entered. Sun Feng reported. This subordinate has inquired. That student surnamed Gu is from Zhao Kingdom." Han Yong was surprised. He laughed and said, "Zhao Kingdom again. That Xiao Lulang is also from Zhao Kingdom, right? Do they have any relationship?" "It's hard to say." Han continued to ask Sun Feng and Zheng Hai, "What else?" Sun Feng replied, "Also, we followed her and found that she went to a pawn shop in Flower Sunday." Han asked, "There are several pawn shops in Flower Sun Street. Which one did she go to?" Sun Feng hurriedly said, "Guerin Hall." Han Yong weakly inhaled a breath of cold air. He touched his chin and asked, "The one that used to be a pharmacy and later became a pawn shop?" Han's eyes narrowed. "That's right." Han Yong didn't understand and said, "Wait, we investigated that shop before. What was the shopkeeper's name again?" "Wang Fugue." "Yes, that's the name. Isn't he the crown prince's spy?" Han said, "He's also the Nangong family's spy. Guerin Hall is a contact point for the Nangong family to collect information." Han Yong laughed sarcastically. "This Wang Fugue wants to eat from both sides. He's both the crown prince's man and the Nangong family's man. Isn't he afraid of being overthrown?" Although the Nangong family was on the crown prince's side, the crown prince probably wouldn't like it if the Nangong family bribed his men to be spies. "Since you knew, why didn't you tell the crown prince?" Han Yong asked his nephew. Han said, "So what if I told him? Instead of letting the Nangong family bribe someone else, it's better to use this Wang Fugue. At least I have my eyes on him." Han Yong laughed. "That's reasonable." Han looked at Sun Feng. "Did she go to the pawn shop to find Wang Fugue?" Sun Feng respectfully replied, "Yes, she waited until the pawn shop was about to close before going to see Wang Fugue directly. I didn't hear what they talked about. She's mute. She wrote it all in words." They had followed so many people, and this was the first time they couldn't hear anything. As for Wang Fugue, he also wrote it in words. Han Yong said, "It's suspicious that she chose to go when the pawn shop was closed. It seems that the Nangong family is involved in this matter." Although the Nangong family and the Han family both belonged to the crown prince's side, the aristocratic families were never harmonious. Everyone wanted to be the crown prince's most outstanding subordinate. The Han family had the advantage of blood relations, while the Nangong family had the advantage of military power. Both sides had been fighting openly and covertly for a long time. Han Yong said, "Not only did they humiliate you, but they also set their sights on Commandery Prince Ming. If Commandery Prince Ming was really bewitched by that woman from a lower country, they would have a chance to surpass the Han family." Han frowned. "Second uncle's words make sense, but I still feel that something is wrong." Han Yong said, "Don't think too much. Believe me, other than the Nangong family, there's no one else." When Xiao Heng came out of the pawn shop, it was drizzling. The coachman handed him an umbrella. Xiao Heng didn't get into the carriage immediately. Instead, he went to a shop diagonally across the street to buy candied hawthorns. He held an oil paper umbrella and walked in the quiet rain. From time to time, people passed by him in a hurry. His veil was gently blown up by the night wind, revealing a heaven-shaking face. In a tea house by the street, two people sat near the window. One was a young man in white with a folding fan, and the other was a guard in gray with a sword. If Gu Jiao was here, she would definitely recognize them as the people who bought Little Jing Kong's golden abacus. Little Jing Kong sold his favorite golden abacus to buy Gu Jiao a wedding dress. The guard in gray was surprised. Young master, isn't he the top scholar of the Zhao kingdom? Look at his face. Young master Mingyu waved the folding fan in his hand and said with a faint smile, "So what if he is and so what if he isn't?" The guard in gray thought for a while and said, "He deliberately let those two people follow him. What does he want to do?" Young master Mingyu smiled and said, "What he wants to do has nothing to do with us. We just need to keep an eye on the little monk beside him." The guard in gray was puzzled. "We have been watching for half a year, but we haven't seen that person appear. Does he not want his disciple anymore?" "He doesn't want his disciple anymore?" Young master Mingyu looked at Xiaoheng, who was holding an umbrella in the rain. He sneered and said, "Then who do you think gave them the admission papers?" The guard in gray scratched his head. "Who? Do you mean it was that person who gave them?" Young master Mingyu smiled and said, "I'm really curious now. What does he want to do by bringing this group of people to the Yan kingdom?" After a few hot days, it finally rained. Royal Prince Ming braved the pitter-patter of rain to return to his manor. As usual, he went to pay his respects to his father. Although it was getting late, he had come from the Han family. As long as he said that he had been with his cousin the entire time, Imperial Father would not blame him. He was stopped by the guard when he arrived at the door of the Crown Prince's study. "Prince Mingyu, the Crown Prince is discussing something important with someone. Please come back tomorrow. Then remember to tell my father that I have come to pay my respects to him." "I will." Prince Mingyu did not dare to eavesdrop on his father, and left with an umbrella. In the study, the Crown Prince sat on a chair with an official's hat behind the desk. In front of him was a high-ranking embroidered uniform guard. The embroidered uniform guard had just reported the news he had gathered. The Crown Prince clenched his hand on the armrest and said in a low voice, "What did you say? The Crown Princess is coming back?" The embroidered uniform guard said, "Yes, the Emperor's verbal order has been sent to the Imperial Mausoleum." The Crown Prince said thoughtfully, "Has he finally decided to execute her or pardon her?" The embroidered uniform guard said, "I don't know. The verbal order did not mention this." The Crown Prince loosened his fist and rubbed the armrest of the chair. "We can't let the Crown Princess come back." The embroidered uniform guard looked at the Crown Prince hesitantly. "Your Highness, you mean?" The Crown Prince said coldly, "Kill the Crown Princess." Xiaoheng bought the last stick of candied haws in the shop. His luck was not bad. It seemed that after using Gu Jiao's identity, his bad luck had decreased a lot. He could pick up money on the streets and avoid bad things when he encountered them. But why? Why did his mood suddenly become strange? Xiaoheng held the umbrella and looked up at the sky full of rain. Was it because of the rain? He suddenly felt a little melancholy. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/1074614448. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 678. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. Gu Jiao went to Tianxiang Pavilion in the afternoon after returning to the outer city. She changed Gu Qingfeng's dressing and got home late. She saw the Horse King and Old Master Meng as soon as she walked to the intersection of the alley. The Horse King was different from the other horse in the house. It had to come out for a walk every day, otherwise it would bully the other horse in the backyard. The Horse King saw Gu Jiao and decided not to run away. It bit the reins and ran to Gu Jiao. Then it handed the reins to Gu Jiao. It wanted to run away from Gu Jiao. The rain in the outer city came earlier and was heavier than in the inner city. Gu Jiao and Old Master Meng found a restaurant with a stable to take shelter from the rain. They stayed there for more than 2 hours. It was already dark. The rain stopped. Gu Jiao said as she looked out of the window. Old Master Meng stood up. Let's go back. It won't rain again. Gu Jiao said, I'll get the horse. The stable was next to the backyard of the restaurant. Gu Jiao led the Horse King out. The sound of horse hooves came from the street. Gu Jiao didn't care. The road was wide and she didn't need to give way to anyone. But when Gu Jiao led the Horse King to the entrance of the restaurant, a child suddenly ran out. Seeing that he was about to run under the horse's hooves, Gu Jiao jumped and rolled to the other side of the street with the child in her arms. The horse's hooves fell heavily on the place where Gu Jiao took the child. Water splashed everywhere. The man obviously saw the child running out. He pulled the reins as hard as he could, but he ran too fast. If Gu Jiao didn't jump, the child would have died under the horse's hooves. He looked coldly at the drenched youth and child and said fiercely, Don't court death next time. His companions caught up, and one of them said, All right, let's go quickly. Don't delay things. He grabbed the reins and whipped the horse, causing it to gallop away. Son. A middle-aged woman from the restaurant stumbled as she ran over. Gu Jiao handed the child to her. Gu Jiao used her body to protect him when he was rolling in the water. Other than his clothes being a little wet, he was fine. Thank you, young master. Thank you, young master. The woman held the child and thanked him repeatedly. Gu Jiao didn't say anything. She walked across the street and stopped in front of Mr. Meng. Let's go. Old Master Meng looked strangely at the figures disappearing at the end of the street. Strange. It's so late. What are the people from the Crown Prince's mansion doing? Isn't that the south gate of the outer city? Are they leaving Chengdu? Gu Jiao said. Are those people from the Crown Prince's mansion? Old Master Meng nodded. They are the brocade guards from the Crown Prince's mansion. Although they weren't wearing the uniform of the brocade guards, he had seen one of them in the Crown Prince's mansion. Gu Jiao paused and said, There is a murderous look in their eyes. They are going to kill someone. She was an assassin in her previous life, so she was familiar with this kind of situation. Kill someone? Old Master Meng frowned and looked in the direction they left. They were so fast that they had already disappeared from the street. That direction seems to be the Imperial Mausoleum. The next day, the sky was clear. Gu Jiao and Gu Shaoshun went to the academy for class. After winning another game, Gu Jiao deeply felt the enthusiasm of the students of the academy. From the moment she entered the academy, she felt like she was walking on a flower path. Lulang, 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 you are so handsome. Gu Jiao looked at the people who were lining the streets to welcome them. That was not necessary. Wu Fuzi sympathized with them for their hard work in the competition, so he didn't let them stay for training today. Gu Jiao and Gu Shaoshun went home early. As soon as they arrived at the door, a squishy little ball rushed over. Jiao Jiao. Gu Jiao caught him with one hand. Jing Kong. Hey, you are faster. Little Jing Kong looked up and said cutely, That's because I have been practicing hard every day. Then he greeted Gu Shaoshun. Brother Shaoshun. Gu Shaoshun pinched his face. Gu Jiao held his little hand and walked inside, looking at the central room as they walked. Don't look. Xiao Heng is not here. Along with a familiar voice, Gu Chengfeng swaggered out from inside. He looked at little Jing Kong, who was being led by Gu Jiao, and said, I went to the inner city to pick him up. Little Jing Kong immediately said solemnly, Jiao Jiao, I don't have class today. I am not playing truant. Okay. Gu Jiao nodded. With Xiao Heng around, he won't let you skip school. Have you recovered? Gu Jiao asked Gu Chengfeng. Jiao Jiao, I am going to find little Shi. Little Jing Kong tilted his head and said. Gu Jiao touched his little head. Go ahead. Little Jing Kong waved his little hands and ran over. Little Shi. I am coming. Horse King, who was eating grass in the backyard, felt its mane stand up and its body tremble. It immediately went to the millstone and put on a condom. It wanted to grind. The two continued their conversation. Gu Chengfeng raised his eyebrows and said, My injury has healed a long time ago. Didn't you see it yesterday? Indeed, when Gu Jiao went to change Gu Qingfeng's dressing yesterday, she found that he had almost recovered. Gu Jiao said, "You came at the right time. Remove the stitches on the wound later." Gu Qingfeng was speechless. Gu Qingfeng was pushed into the house and was removed by Gu Jiao without any resistance. This year his martial arts had improved a lot, but compared to this girl's speed of improvement, it was not enough. What was wrong with this girl? Her skills were improving day by day. Gu Jiao put down the scissors and started to pack up. Gu Qingfeng tried to regain his dignity and said, "Aren't you going to ask me how I got into the inner city? Quick, praise me for being capable. Praise me." Gu Jiao said, "Oh, the number one thief in the capital, Fei Shuang. Stealing a child is not a problem." Gu Qingfeng, "What do you mean by stealing a child? Was he that kind of person?" But to be honest, entering the Yan Kingdom was the most difficult. It was almost impossible to sneak in. The checkpoints in the outer city of Chengdu were also strict, but it seemed that once you entered, you would not be questioned all the time. After all, everything that should be blocked was blocked outside. Gu Qingfeng felt that using words with Gu Jiao did not give him any sense of accomplishment, because Gu Jiao would never accept a joke. She was the king of awkward silence, the terminator of conversations. Su Fengxian gave me a new identity and an inner city talisman, Gu Qingfeng said. Gu Jiao was confused. Even Gu Qingfeng had an inner city talisman? "I want one too," she said. "Do you know how to sing?" "Nope." "Do you know how to tell stories?" "Nope." "Or do you know how to play music?" She knew this. Facing a group of perverted stinky men, you are not allowed to beat them up. Gu Jiao was speechless. She wanted to beat them up. Gu Qingfeng knew it would be like this. He waved his hand and said, "Okay, I have something important to talk to you about today." "Speak." Gu Jiao put the used cotton swabs into a special basket. Gu Qingfeng said casually, "In the past few days in Tianxiang Pavilion, I accidentally found out some information." Saying that he accidentally was being modest. He was clearly racking his brains, using all his skills and risking his life to find out information. "I'm listening." Gu Jiao put the used gauze into the same basket. These things would be burned later. Gu Qingfeng said, "Last time, the people who went to Zhao country to assassinate Xiaoheng were from the Nangong family, right?" "Yes, didn't you know?" Gu Jiao did not hide this matter from him. Gu Qingfeng continued, "But did you know that the Nangong family and the Crown Prince's residence are very close? Nangong Li is the Crown Prince's confidant." Gu Jiao's mind flashed back to the conversation between Nangong Li and the shopkeeper at the pawn shop that day. His Highness was very angry and asked why he couldn't even handle such a small matter. "This is not a small matter. One of my arms is gone." So, the Highness that the shopkeeper was talking about was the Crown Prince of the Yan Kingdom? The Crown Prince of the Yan Kingdom wanted Xiaoheng's life? Why did the Crown Prince of the Yan Kingdom do this? What was the relationship between Xiaoheng and the royal family of the Yan Kingdom? Gu Qingfeng said, "The Nangong family and the Han family are both on the Crown Prince's side, but the two families don't seem to have a good relationship. He suffered a lot at the hands of the Han family, so when he asked for information, he inevitably asked about the Han family as well." He continued, "I heard that the two sons of the Han family were beaten up one after another. Could it be the Nangong family?" Gu Jiao said, "No." Gu Qingfeng asked strangely, "How can you be sure that it wasn't the Nangong family?" Gu Jiao thought for a moment and said honestly, "Because I did it." The corner of Gu Qingfeng's mouth twitched. As expected, this girl's courage was still so big. "Is there any other news?" Gu Jiao asked. Gu Qingfeng thought for a moment and shook his head. There doesn't seem to be any useful news for now. He had heard a lot of news at Tianxiang Pavilion, but most of it was the gossip of the aristocratic families. It was enough to be a topic of conversation before and after tea, but it wasn't of much value. Oh wait. He suddenly thought of something and said thoughtfully, "There is another big matter. The Crown Princess is coming back. It is said that the monarch allowed her to come back." The monarch, the Crown Princess. Gu Jiao's hand that was tidying up the medicine box paused. Gu Qingfeng saw her pause and couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong?" Gu Jiao said. The crown princess might not come back so easily. Gu Qingfeng asked, why? Gu Jiao looked at the medicine in the medicine box and said, last night, I met the assassins from the crown prince's residence. If the crown princess is coming back, then it should be to kill her. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/1074597111. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 679. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Qingfeng was furious. Are you serious? Who is this crown prince? How can he kill his own sister? Sister? Gu Jiao was just confused. Gu Qingfeng thought for a moment. Oh no, I think it's an older sister. The crown princess is the third princess of the king. There are 2 concubine princesses above her. Before she was born, there were no princes. As he spoke, he subconsciously touched his chin. This was Gu Jiao's usual little action, but after being together for a long time, they would be influenced by each other's habits. Even he didn't notice it. He said suspiciously, the crown prince wants to kill Xiao Heng and the crown princess. What's the relationship between the 3 of them? I don't know, Gu Jiao said. Gu Qingfeng asked curiously, did they send many killers? Gu Jiao said 6. Regardless of what kind of person the crown princess was, the crown prince wanted to kill Xiao Heng. So in all fairness, Gu Qingfeng didn't want the crown prince to succeed. Can we report it to the officials and let them get him back? As soon as he said this, Gu Qingfeng was shocked. Was it because he had been with this girl for a long time that he became bold? The Yan Kingdom was a superior country. How could small people like them get involved in the internal strife of a superior country's royal family? One mistake, and they would be doomed eternally. They wouldn't even know how they died. Moreover, the crown princess was not related to them. Just because they didn't like the crown prince, they risked their lives to save the crown princess. Wasn't the price too high? Gu Jiao closed the small medicine box with a click. Gu Qingfeng was startled by the sudden sound. Gu Jiao picked up the small basket and started to pack the hidden weapons. Send Jing Kong back later. Of course I will send him back, Gu Qingfeng said without hesitation. I brought him here. If I don't send him back, who will? As he spoke, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Wait, why did you tell me? What do you want to do? Gu Jiao put her hand on her belt. Hey. Gu Qingfeng covered his eyes and turned around. Even if I'm your biological brother, you can't do this. You should be more careful between men and women. Oh, Gu Jiao said. I forgot that you're a man. Gu Qingfeng. What a heart-wrenching sister. Gu Qingfeng ran out of the house. Gu Jiao changed into a set of night clothes, put on a mask, and carried the red-tasseled spear to the backyard to get the horse. Old Master Meng and Gu Yan were playing chess in the backyard. Seeing her dressed like this, Mr. Meng looked puzzled. Why are you dressed like this? Madame Nan's body was fine now. She went to the kitchen to start the fire, intending to make some food for little Jing Kong. She saw Gu Jiao when she came out to fetch some water. She was slightly stunned. You're going out? Gu Jiao nodded. Yes, I'm going out. Madame Nan, please take care of Yan for the time being. It was her duty to take care of Gu Yan. After all, he was her husband's disciple. But how long would she be out for? She even asked for his help. Gu Yan looked down and squeezed the chess piece in his hand. Gu Shaoshan accompanied little Jing Kong to play with little Shi. Gu Jiao asked Gu Yan to tell Gu Xiaoshan to take a few days off for her. Okay. Gu Yan responded in a low voice. Gu Jiao led the horse to the door. Gu Qingfeng chased after her. Hey, are you crazy? Do you know what you're doing? What does the internal strife of the Yan Kingdom's royal family have to do with us? Gu Jiao straightened the saddle and fastened the buckle. The crown prince wants to kill Xiaoheng. Gu Qingfeng asked so. Gu Jiao muttered. There's something I need to verify personally. Gu Qingfeng was anxious. What's the matter? Gu Jiao got on the horse. I'll tell you when I'm back. Gu Qingfeng looked at the departing figure. He was so angry that he clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Hey, you brat. Stop right there. Come back here. They've been walking for a day and a night. You can't catch up with them. Gu Jiao went far away. Gu Qingfeng wanted to kill someone. How did this brat grow up? Did she eat bear's heart and leopard's guts? They were from the Crown Prince's residence. The Crown Prince's residence. Run if you can't beat them. You're not allowed to take off the protective talisman. The imperial mausoleum of the Zhao Kingdom was built near the capital. The Yan Kingdom's imperial mausoleum was 100 miles away on Mount Guan. It was said that Emperor Taizu had asked someone to check the feng shui. The mountain range of Mount Guan was shaped like a dragon. It was beautiful and could be called another dragon's vein. Building the imperial mausoleum here could ensure the inheritance of the Yan Kingdom's imperial aura and prosperity of the country. If it was only 100 miles, one day and a night would be enough to cover it if the horses didn't stop. However, it rained in Xingdu last night. It was hard to guarantee that the other places on the road didn't experience heavy rain, which would slow down their speed. As for how much, it would depend on the specific situation at the time. Moreover, they couldn't not rest at all. It would easily affect their fighting ability. Gu Jiao felt that she still had hope of catching up with them, even if the hope was very slim. But even if it was slim, she had to try. She wanted to know the answer. The sun was setting. In a post station near Mount Guan, 6 men in cloaks led the horses in and gave them to the workers of the post station to feed the horses. They also ordered a table full of dishes. We'll enter Mount Guan soon, the leader said. Don't make any mistakes in this operation. The man beside him said, Don't worry, big brother. Don't you know our strength? The Crown Princess's martial arts have been destroyed. How can the guards in the Imperial Mausoleum be our match? The leader said, Do it cleanly. Don't let people find out that it's Her Highness. Of course. Besides, we only want to kill the Crown Princess. The guards in the Imperial Mausoleum should avoid them if possible. If they can't, we'll kill them to avoid new problems. Got it, big brother? They finished the dishes on the table. The leader left a silver coin on the table and led a few people to the stable to lead the horses out of the post station. The sky was gloomy and the mountain was stuffy. A man in black said, Big brother, it's going to rain again. The leader looked at the Imperial Mausoleum not far away and said with cold eyes, The heavy rain will cover the breath. It's a good time to kill. As he spoke, he covered his face with the black cloth around his neck. The others also covered their faces with cloth. He ordered, Let's go. They gripped the reins and pulled out the swords at their waists. With murderous intent, they galloped toward the Imperial Mausoleum in the night. To reach the Imperial Mausoleum, they had to cross a cable bridge. Just as they were about to step onto the bridge, an arrow suddenly flew from behind them. It carried a biting cold murderous intent, and an extremely sharp sound as it tore through the air. It seemed to tear a hole in the dark night. The leader instantly became alert and cut the arrow in half with his sword. Who goes there? He pulled on the reins and stopped at the entrance of the cable bridge. When he stopped, the 5 men in black behind him also stopped. They all lined up. The leader turned his horse around and stood at the front of the group. His eyes were like torches as he looked at the youth who was riding toward them in the dark night. Moonlight chased after the youth. He held the bow in one hand and the reins in the other. His entire body exuded the powerful aura of a purgatory Azura. Everyone was shocked. The leader looked deeply at the youth who had suddenly appeared. He narrowed his eyes and asked again, Who are you? Gu Jiao pulled out 3 arrows from behind her and placed them on the bowstring. She aimed at the other party. the person who wants your lives." After she said this, she let go of the bowstring and the arrows left the bowstring. It was clearly 3 arrows, but she was still skillful. The 3 arrows were not aimed at anyone, but they shot under the hooves of their horses. The horses were frightened. They raised their front hooves and almost stood up straight. They let out a frightened neigh. The several people quickly dismounted and with a few nimble rolls, they steadied themselves in front of the cable bridge. The leader coldly said, "Little brat, good archery. Which archery camp are you from?" "Archery camp?" When the other 5 people heard this, they couldn't help being stunned. There were many people who knew archery, but the archers of the military camp were different from the experts of the common people. This little brat was actually an archer from the military camp. No wonder he was able to force the 6 of them off their horses. Gu Jiao still didn't talk nonsense with them. She once again pulled the bowstring. The leader disdainfully snorted, "Little brat, do you really think you can hurt us like this? You guys cross the bridge first, I will deal with him." They were forced off their horses not because their martial arts were not good, but because their horses were not good enough. In fact, they were the real experts after they got off their horses. Gu Jiao fired 3 arrows at the same time again. Only 1 arrow was aimed at the leader's heart. The other 2 arrows were off target. The leader almost laughed. "I thought you had some skills, but it turns out you are only so." He raised his sword and effortlessly slashed apart the arrow that was flying towards him. "Big brother!" Behind him, a black-clothed man shouted. He turned his head to take a look, and saw that the 2 arrows that he thought had missed were actually nailed accurately to the rope at the other end of the suspension bridge. The strength and accuracy of the arrows were so great that they actually broke the rope. Such a long distance. Such a thin rope. How did he do it? When did such a young and promising archer appear in Chengdu? The leader shouted, "Little brat! Where did you learn your archery skills?" Unfortunately, Gu Jiao still didn't intend to pay attention to him. The bridge fell with a bang. "Big brother! The bridge is broken." The leader's eyes were completely cold. "Little brat! You are courting death." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964226/1074441146. HTML Genius memorized this site's address. www.zhhbqg.com Bkuj mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 680. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. A mere archer dared to challenge the imperial guards of the crown prince's residence. She was overestimating herself. The leader jumped up and swung the sword in his hand. Above Gu Jiao's head, he viciously chopped down at Gu Jiao's head. "Let's see how you can shoot at such a close distance." Gu Jiao didn't choose to dodge, and let the horse take the hit. But if he thought that Gu Jiao only knew how to shoot arrows, he was gravely mistaken. Gu Jiao calmly looked at him. He was about to be chopped in half. Why was this kid still so calm? Gu Jiao's calmness wasn't because she underestimated the enemy. In fact, these people's martial arts weren't weak. They were all close to the strength of Sirius. She had never tried to deal with 6 Sirius at once. But she wouldn't let herself panic. If she needed to fight, she would fight. If she needed to kill, she would kill. If she needed to fight, she would fight seriously. If she wasn't, she would fight half-heartedly. Anyway, there was no way out. The sword energy came. Her long hair, and the corners of her clothes flew backwards. She pulled out the red-tasseled spear from behind her back and blocked the opponent's attack. The sword energy shattered the white cloth wrapped around the red-tasseled spear, revealing the small braids at the tip of the spear, and the large red flowers all over the spear. The leader's eyes were almost blinded. His breathing stopped for a moment. What the F***ck is this? Gu Jiao swung her spear and hit his waist. Shit. He was directly sent flying. It wasn't that he couldn't dodge or catch it. It was just that the red-tasseled spear was too ugly. He had been practicing martial arts for so many years, but he had never seen such an ugly weapon in his life. Before he fell to the ground, he touched the ground with his sword and flipped over to stabilize his body. Big brother. The rest of the people gathered around. The leader looked coldly at Gu Jiao and said, "You guys think of a way to get over. Even if you have to swim, you have to swim over. I can deal with this kid." "Yes, big brother." Everyone agreed in unison. In fact, they could tell that this kid only had the strength and tenacity of his body. He did not have the slightest bit of internal energy. No matter how strong his moves were, he would not be able to last more than 10 moves in the hands of any one of them. Big brother is more than enough to deal with her. The few of them stepped forward. Gu Jiao urged her horse to gallop in front of them. She propped her red-tasseled spear on the ground and used the momentum to flip around and land in front of them. She held the red-tasseled spear in her hand, holding back 10,000 men. "Today no one will be able to pass." An embroidered uniform guard said, "You sure talk big. Take this." He swung his sword at Gu Jiao. Just now, the few of them were indeed shocked by Gu Jiao's red-tasseled spear, but at this moment, they also recovered from their shock. He used 50% of his power. This was considered giving this kid face. For a person without internal energy, even 10% of his power was too much. As for the other 40%, he was venting his anger. He wanted to chop this brat into mincemeat. However, who would have thought that something unexpected happened? This brat was clearly in front of him, but the moment his sword fell, he suddenly dodged. What a fast movement. After Gu Jiao dodged, she attacked him with her spear. However, Skywolf was Skywolf. How could he be so easily hurt by Gu Jiao? He also dodged easily. He was ranked 5th among the 6 people. He smiled coldly. "You do have some skills, but this is the end. Die." He concentrated his chi in his dantian and used 70% of his power. Gu Jiao felt a familiar aura. It turned out that they were also men of sacrifice. However, they were not ordinary men of sacrifice. They seemed to have practiced some kind of skill that could hide their aura. At first glance, they looked like ordinary masters. Gu Jiao exchanged a few moves with him. She had to admit that the other party's strength was very strong. She did not have time to make a detonator. The black gunpowder in her hand was also used up when she was dealing with Erhan. "Lu Dong, can you do it?" Another embroidered uniform guard asked. The embroidered uniform guard called Lu Dong had a serious expression. This brat was a bit difficult to deal with. He had to use all his strength. It would be a joke if word got out that the embroidered uniform guard of the Crown Prince's residence was forced to use all his strength by a brat without any internal energy. He attacked Gu Jiao with a fatal blow. His companions did not help him because they felt that it was unnecessary. It was just a brat. Why would they need to work together? Pucci, the sharp blade pierced through the body. Everyone was stunned. The leader's pupils shrank. How could? Gu Jiao's red-tasseled spear pierced through the embroidered uniform guard's heart. She kicked him away. The moment the red-tasseled spear left his body, blood splattered on her mask. Thanks to the Shaolin martial monks, she had recovered 40% of her strength from her previous life. Therefore, even if she did not have any supplementary skills, she could still kill a sky wolf. But there were 5 more left. Gu Jiao panted slightly. Who's next? She did not say that if they came together, there was a need to consider the situation. I'll deal with you. Another embroidered uniform guard walked out. Fortunately, these people were not like Marquis Xianping. Otherwise, if they ganged up on her, she would be dead in a matter of minutes. Gu Jiao withstood 30 moves from this person. Finally, her spear pierced his vital point. At this time, Gu Jiao was also injured. Her breathing was gradually becoming disordered. Damn it! Attack together. A square-faced embroidered uniform guard said. Gu Jiao wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. Hey, do you have any shame? So many people attacking me. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? The leader said coldly, "No one will laugh at us if we kill you." He said to his companions, "Kill him. Kick him into the water. Leave his red tasseled spear." It looked ugly, but it was very useful. Gu Jiao held the red tasseled spear in her hand. As expected, no one could escape from the red tasseled spear. Unfortunately, this red tasseled spear was her brother's. She could not give it to him. The 4 people joined forces to kill Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao and the 4 people exchanged more than 100 moves. Her body was already stained with blood. The opponents had the advantage in martial arts and numbers, so their injuries were not as serious as Gu Jiao's. It seemed that the 4 people had the upper hand. In fact, the 4 of them were very surprised. Where did this kid come from? How could he still fight? They said that he was like an archer from the barracks, but he could also use the red tasseled spear so well. They did not remember which barracks in Chengdu had such a powerful youth. More importantly, every time they thought that he was about to die, he could stand up again. Big brother, how can he still have the strength? A embroidered uniform guard whispered. Another embroidered uniform guard said, "Yes, big brother. He suffered so much sword chi from us. He should have died long ago, right?" The leader looked at the youth whose clothes were already soaked in blood with a complicated expression. The youth's mask had fallen off during the fight, but he could not see the youth's face because it was covered in blood. The leader suddenly felt reluctant to kill him. "Boy, I don't care who sent you. That person is not a good person. You are not a match for us, but he sent you alone. It is clear that he wants you to die. If you are willing to rely on our master, I can spare your life and cultivate you in the future." Big brother. The other 3 people's faces changed at the same time. He killed Lu Dong and Zhang Chong. A embroidered uniform guard rebuked. The leader did not answer. Instead, he stared at the youth who had already exhausted all his strength but still refused to surrender like a blood wolf. "Either you die or surrender. You choose." "I choose." Gu Jiao looked at them coldly through her blurred vision. "Kill you." The leader gritted his teeth and said, "It seems that there is no need to be merciful. Kill him." The 3 people rushed toward Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao raised her hand and grabbed the protective talisman around her neck. "If you can't beat me, then run. You are not allowed to take off the protective talisman. Do you understand?" Gu Jiao slowly lowered her hand. Her eyes were like torches as she looked at the 3 people rushing toward her. She raised the red tasseled spear in her hand and met them head-on in a suicidal manner. The 3 people's eyes were wide open. This boy. Gu Jiao's spear pierced through the embroidered uniform guard on the right. The embroidered uniform guard on the left was separated by 1 person, so he did not cause any harm to her. However, the one in the middle cut her leg with his sword. She kicked him and used the force to pull out the red tasseled spear. She flipped back 7 feet. This was a scene that no one had expected. She was clearly struggling at death's door, but she killed another one. The leader's killing intent surged. Among the young people, the strongest person I have seen is the Han family's heir. Your current martial arts may not be as good as his, but your talent is definitely above his. It is a pity that we have to kill you." As soon as he finished speaking, he held his sword and fiercely slashed at Gu Jiao. She couldn't block this sword. She could not take off her safety talisman. Her entire body was numb. "Xiaoheng, I still haven't found out about your past." She fell face down with her eyes wide open. She fell to the ground in a daze. "Die!" The leader's sword slashed at Gu Jiao's neck. Clang! The sword was suddenly blocked by something and flew out of his hand. It was nailed to a tree not far away. The sword's hilt shook. It could be seen how strong the attack was. "Who is it?" He turned around and shouted. "TSK." A group of grown men ganging up to bully a little girl. Are the embroidered uniform guards from the Crown Prince's palace this shameless? Under the moonlight, a monk wearing a gray robe walked towards them step by step. He had a string of prayer beads hanging from his hand. This monk was very handsome. He was clearly a monk, but he had a pair of charming peach blossom eyes. There was also an unforgettable mole under his right eye. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_89642826/1074408666. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 681. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. The monk's appearance was too impactful. It took the 2 embroidered uniform guards a long time to recover from their shock. Then the 2 of them turned pale with fright. What did he say? The youth who fought with him for so long and killed 4 of them was actually a girl? Also, how did he know that they were the embroidered uniform guards from the Crown Prince's residence? Where did he come from? Did he follow them, or was he just passing by? Who are you? The leader gripped his sword tightly. He couldn't sense the other party's aura at all. Either he didn't know martial arts or his martial arts had reached the realm of returning to the origin. He looked at the sword that was nailed to the tree. There was a hole in the sword. He looked at the surrounding empty space and found a green leaf inserted into the soil. The leader's pupils constricted. Could it be that the monk used a leaf to knock away his sword? And even crippled it? How terrifying was his inner strength? The monk smiled and said, "I'm a monk. My name is not worth mentioning." Under the moonlight, his smile gave off an inexplicably eerie feeling. The 2 embroidered uniform guards' hearts couldn't help but skip a beat. Bullshit monk. They had never seen such a demonic monk. The leader's heart unconsciously filled with fear. He gripped the hilt of his sword and calmed his mind. He threatened in a cold voice, "Monk, this has nothing to do with you. If you know what's good for you, then scram." Sigh. The monk's thin lips parted slightly and sighed faintly. He said, "Monks are merciful. Why do you 2 benefactors have to fight and kill? Can't we talk things out?" The other embroidered uniform guard pointed his sword and roared, "Who the hell wants to talk things out with you? Either you scram, or you bald donkey will be killed as well." "Oh." The monk smiled faintly. Then he raised the hand with the string of Buddhist beads. His slender fingertips touched his delicate chin as if he was deep in thought. "You want to kill?" When the leader heard this, he didn't know why, but the uneasy feeling in his heart grew stronger. He could not see through this monk's strength at all. The embroidered uniform guard said disdainfully, "Big brother, don't waste your breath with him. Leave this kind of guy to me. In any case, he already knows our identities, so we have to silence him." As he spoke, he looked at the monk, who was so beautiful that he didn't look like a mortal under the moonlight, and said fiercely, "Remember not to meddle in other people's business in your next life." Duh. He sprinted towards the monk. When he was about 10 steps away from the monk, he suddenly leaped into the air and grabbed the hilt of his sword with both hands before slashing down at the monk. It was as if he was going to cleave the monk in half. "Stop!" The leader reached out in order to stop him, but it was too late. His sword slashed down. The monk looked up at the embroidered uniform guards who were attacking him from the sky. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. He raised his left hand that was not holding the prayer beads and gently moved them with his fingertips. "What's the situation?" "My sword." The embroidered uniform guards only felt a majestic force hit his sword. Half of his body was instantly paralyzed, and he was sent flying by that terrifying force. He fell heavily on the ground and slid out a large pit that was a foot deep and 10 feet long. He only stopped when he reached the feet of the leader. Not half an inch more, not half an inch less. Everything was under control just right. Big brother." He spat out a mouthful of blood and stopped breathing on the spot. The leader looked at the embroidered uniform guards who had been killed in one move in disbelief. His eyes widened in horror. Not all the embroidered uniform guards were death warriors, but all 6 of them were. Death warriors were braver and more fearless than ordinary people. They never cowered in battle. However, for the first time in his life, he had the thought of retreating. Damn it. Where did this monk come from? First, there was an unkillable brat. Why was there such an abnormal expert? His eyes flashed and he resisted the trembling that seemed to come from his soul. I don't want to fight anymore. Let me go. The monk smiled. Okay. The leader of the group turned around and ran away. The monk chuckled and pointed his finger at his departing figure. A powerful inner force penetrated his chest as if it had materialized. There was a sharp pain in his chest and blood splashed in front of his eyes. He opened his mouth in disbelief and fell forward. He ground a large piece of grass before he stopped. Then his whole body trembled, and the breath in his dantian dissipated rapidly. Why didn't you agree to let me go? The monk walked over casually and looked down at him. I agreed to let you go, but I didn't say that I would let you go alive. You damn. The leader breathed his last. The monk raised his eyebrows and came to Gu Jiao's side. Gu Jiao fainted. Her face was buried in the grass, and she lay on the ground like a sad little frog. The monk said with emotion, to be able to kill four, that's not bad. Gu Jiao was awakened by the crackling sound of firewood. She opened her eyes and found herself lying in a rundown temple. There were spider webs hanging on the Buddha statue and the beams. She didn't know how long it had been since someone came here. She smelled the delicious aroma of meat that made her want to eat heartily. Someone was roasting meat. The sound just now came from the pile of firewood. Awake. A lazy man's voice came from behind the firewood. The voice was a little familiar, as if she had heard it before. Gu Jiao's first reaction was to sit up and restore her alertness. Then she saw the monk behind the firewood. It's you. Wasn't this the beautiful monk she met in the countryside? She went up the mountain to find the abbot, and met a monk who fell into a trap on the way. Her deepest impression was that the monk was really good-looking, and the second deepest impression was that the monk was really weird. The monk was bitten by a poisonous snake, and then he killed it. Gu Jiao blinked and looked at him without blinking. Why did you come to the Yin Kingdom? The monk roasted the meat and said, How can you be sure that this is the Yin Kingdom? Ah. Gu Jiao was stunned. I went back to the Zhao Kingdom. Ha ha ha. The monk suddenly laughed. Gu Jiao did not find it funny. She stood up and checked her own condition. The wounds on her body had been applied with the golden sore medicine, and they had healed well. She looked around and found that she was sleeping on a pile of hay. Her small basket and red tasseled spear were lying at her feet. She clearly remembered that the red tasseled spear had 8 small braids, but now it had become 10. Could it be that the monk did it? Do all monks have a hobby of braiding their hair? Those 2 people, are they dead? Gu Jiao remembered that there were 2 embroidered uniform guards left before she fainted. They are dead, the monk said. Okay. Gu Jiao didn't ask how they died. The monk didn't take the initiative to say. Gu Jiao asked again. Where is this? How long have I been sleeping? The monk said. Near the place where you fainted. You have been sleeping for 5 days. Gu Jiao said strangely. Why did I sleep for so long? She shouldn't have slept for so many days because of her injuries, right? The monk spread out his hands. How would I know? Gu Jiao took out the first aid kit from the small medicine box and counted the medicine. The corner of her mouth twitched. You gave me a whole bottle of tranquilizers? The monk suddenly realized. Is that a tranquilizer? You didn't label it on the bottle. You had a high fever, so I applied your golden sore ointment on you, but you were still as hot as a small stove. I had to find some medicine for you, and it seems that it was indeed medicine. I was worried that I had made a mistake. Gu Jiao's face darkened. You didn't even know whether the bottle was filled with medicine or not, but you gave me dozens of pills. Can you be more unreliable? The monk turned the rabbit on the shelf around and took out a small bamboo tube from his wide sleeve. He removed the lid and sprinkled some salt on the rabbit meat. Look, I didn't forget to add salt this time. If he didn't mention this, Gu Jiao would have almost forgotten that the monk had fallen into her trap because of a rabbit. She thought that he, a monk, wanted to save the rabbit. Who would have thought that he killed the rabbit and roasted it without saying a word? She once suspected that he was a fake monk, and she still suspected so. Gu Jiao looked around. She was a little thirsty. Is there water? The monk threw her a water bag. Gu Jiao caught it in her hand. It was empty. The monk said, "There is a small stream outside the back door of the temple. Take this to get water." Gu Jiao said, "Then I can drink without a water bag." The monk looked at Gu Jiao and said confidently, "I'm asking you to get some water for me." Gu Jiao was speechless. What kind of monk was this? Gu Jiao took the water bag to the backyard to get water. The monk looked at her walking as if she was flying. He narrowed his charming peach blossom eyes. "You recover so quickly." Gu Jiao came back after drinking the water and threw the water bag to him. He raised his hand to take it and smiled. "Thank you." He was born beautiful. With such a bright smile, all living beings wanted to fall for him. If the monk saved all living beings with this appearance, all living beings would be possessed by the devil. Gu Jiao squatted down in front of the monk. She grabbed a small branch and drew circles on the ground while waiting to roast the rabbit. She asked the monk several questions. Except for the question of how he came to the Yin Kingdom, he answered all the other questions. There were only 2 ways to come to the Yin Kingdom. One was to have an official travel permit, and the other was to be marked as a slave. She didn't know which type the monk belonged to. "Are you from the Zhao Kingdom or the Yin Kingdom?" Gu Jiao asked. "Does it matter?" The monk asked with a smile. Gu Jiao thought seriously. "Oh no." She continued to draw circles. The monk continued to roast the meat. The meat was delicious. Gu Jiao was really hungry. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964226/107422141. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 682. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. The monk's skills in roasting the rabbit weren't bad. The rabbit fat on the surface was all roasted, and small bubbles came out with hissing sounds. He crushed the salt and sprinkled a few grains from time to time. The temple was instantly filled with the crisp fragrance of salt and pepper. Gu Jiao swallowed her saliva. She gradually changed from drawing circles to drawing rabbit, roasting rabbit, braising rabbit, spicy rabbit head, cold eating rabbit meat. In fact, other than roasted rabbit, there were also a few roasted mushrooms on the rack. But Gu Jiao only wanted to eat rabbit. Finally, the rabbit meat was roasted. The monk took out a sharp knife from his wide sleeve and was about to cut off a rabbit leg when a murderous aura suddenly came from outside the temple. Gu Jiao's eyes turned cold and she stood up. It wasn't late yet, but the sky was overcast, giving people an ominous premonition. The murderous aura quickly approached, and the sound of something sweeping through the branches and leaves came from the forest. It was Qinggong. It was even faster than Gu Qingfeng's Qinggong. It must be known that Gu Qingfeng's Qinggong could even shake off the dragon's shadow guards. The commotion stopped in the open space outside the temple. Gu Jiao sensed 3 auras. They were all real sky wolves, and one of the auras was faintly above sky wolves. The people inside, get out. Among the 3 people, one of them coldly spoke. Gu Jiao had already seen through the crack in the door. Although the 3 people were disguised, the swords at their waists were the same as the 6 embroidered uniform guards from that day. They were people from the Crown Prince's residence. The monk sat cross-legged on the ground, calmly roasting the meat on the ground as if he didn't hear anything. Stop hiding. You have the guts to kill people, but don't have the guts to admit it? Gu Jiao grabbed the red tasseled spear on the ground and walked out with a strong aura. The red-tasseled spear in her hand landed heavily on the ground, and the powerful force seemed to shake the ground. A trace of surprise flashed through the eyes of the three people at the same time. They did not expect that the person they were looking for was actually such a young boy. The strongest man wore a purple cloak, while the other two wore black cloaks. The purple-cloaked man coldly said, "You're the one who killed the crown prince's imperial bodyguards?" Gu Jiao raised her eyebrows and said, "So what if it's me? However, are you not even planning to hide it?" The purple-cloaked man said disdainfully, What's there to hide from a dead man?" Gu Jiao looked at him and said, "How arrogant." The embroidered uniform guard on the left said, "You're the arrogant one, brat. You even dared to kill people from the crown prince's residence. Brat, who sent you here?" The brocade guard on the right also opened his mouth. "Su-air, did we make a mistake? This brat doesn't look like someone who can kill 6 embroidered uniform guards." The boy in front of them was too young and too immature. Although his aura was very strong, it was impossible for him to kill 6 embroidered uniform guards in one breath. The purple-cloaked man narrowed his eyes dangerously. "Brat, do you have an accomplice?" Gu Jiao said, "So what if I do? So what if I don't? What does it have to do with you?" The purple-cloaked man said, "We spent 5 days to track you down. I have to say, you do have some ability. But it's all over now. Today is the day you die." "I don't know the day of my death, but I know the day of your death." Gu Jiao looked at the 3 people without fear and said arrogantly, "Do you want to come one by one, or the 3 of you together?" Their hatred reached the peak in an instant. The purple-cloaked man said with murderous intent, "Brat, if you want to die early, we'll help you. Come together." Gu Jiao raised her other hand that wasn't holding the red-tasseled spear and made a stop sign. "Wait, I didn't say I wanted to fight with you." The 3 people were stunned. Gu Jiao flashed back into the temple and stood behind the monk. She stuck her head out and pointed at the monk. "You guys fight with him." The monk. The 3 people. The temple was barbecued meat and roasted mushrooms. The monk didn't want to ruin the results of his 2 hours of hard work, so he got up and walked out. The purple-cloaked man snorted, "You're actually a monk. What's your relationship with that brat?" The monk sighed impatiently. "If you want to fight, then fight. If not, then get lost. This poor monk doesn't like to talk nonsense." The embroidered uniform guard on the right sneered. "Each one is more arrogant than the last. Take this." He took the lead and rushed toward the monk. As Gu Jiao chewed on the fragrant rabbit meat, she observed the fight on the spot. She had killed Sirius twice. One was with the help of an auxiliary method, and the other was with a safety talisman. She was seriously injured each time. This was the first time she observed Sirius from the perspective of a bystander. He was so fast. The 6 embroidered uniform guards couldn't compare to him. His fist arrived in front of the monk in the blink of an eye. Was the monk too late to dodge? Why wasn't he moving? This punch would give the monk a concussion, right? The wind from the fist blew the monk's robe back. The monk stared at him without blinking. When his fist was about to break the monk's nose, he suddenly raised his hand and grabbed the man's wrist. "You guys shouldn't have disturbed this poor monk's meal." He didn't use any fancy moves and just threw the man out. The dignified Sirius couldn't even fight back in the hands of the monk. The moment the man fell to the ground, he spat out a mouthful of blood and didn't get up again. Gu Jiao, so powerful. The purple-cloaked man saw this and a strong sense of surprise flashed across his eyes. Then a murderous aura surged. "Very good. I didn't expect that the first time I used my full strength would be against a monk." He raised his internal force to the extreme. A force that was far more terrifying than Sirius swept through the whole world. He was like a lion that had just woken up and finally bared his fierce fangs. "Take this." He rushed toward the monk with the force of a landslide and a tsunami. Slap. The monk grabbed his forehead with one hand. The purple-cloaked man. Gu Jiao counted the moves. He used 1 move and 3 moves to deal with the 2 Sirius. He used 7 moves to deal with the super Sirius. Gu Jiao recalled how many moves he used to fight the 2 Sirius. Oh, he forgot to count. He would never admit that he didn't know how many moves he used. Gu Jiao basically ruled out the possibility that he entered the Yen Kingdom by being marked as a slave. Therefore, he had a proper travel permit from the Yen Kingdom. Then the question was, how did he get the Yen Kingdom travel permit? Or was he a citizen of the Yen Kingdom and had a travel permit? She spoke to him in the Zhao Nation language, but he spoke to the 3 embroidered uniform guards in the Yen Kingdom language. He spoke both languages very well. In fact, she had another question. Why did he appear in Mount Guan and happen to see her being chased by the Crown Prince's people? Was it a coincidence? Or while she was thinking, the monk walked in calmly. His clothes were not messy at all, nor were they stained with blood. He was so clean that he looked like an outstanding monk. Who would have thought that this monk could kill people faster than the men of sacrifice? He brushed his wide sleeves and sat down in front of the fire. Gu Jiao asked, "What kind of martial arts did you use just now?" At first she couldn't see the moves, but later, she saw that there was a pattern. It seemed to be specially used to deal with the powerful men of sacrifice. The monk smiled. "Why? Do you want to learn?" Gu Jiao nodded. "Yes." The monk said no. Gu Jiao, "Then don't ask." The monk began to eat the rabbit. He reached out his hand. Where was the rabbit meat? Why was there so little left? Gu Jiao burped. The monk gritted his teeth. He had roasted it for 2 hours. If he had known, he would have killed it faster. The monk tore off half of the rabbit's leg and took a wine bag from his waist. He pulled out the cork and ate the meat one mouthful at a time. Gu Jiao planned to go back to the haystack and lie down. Unexpectedly, as soon as she got up, the monk, who was eating halfway, suddenly jumped up and jumped onto Gu Jiao's back. Yes, on her back. Not on her back. Gu Jiao, what's going on? What's wrong with you? Gu Jiao asked in confusion. The monk, who was lying on her back and holding the rabbit's leg and the wine bag, stuttered, "Snake, snake, snake, snake." Oh! Gu Jiao found the snake under the table. She walked over with him on her back, bent down and picked it up by its tail. She said calmly, "It's just a small cauliflower snake. It's not poisonous." The monk, who had killed 3 celestial wolves a second ago, was terrified now. He almost roared, "Take it away, take it away. Hurry up and take it away." Gu Jiao tilted her head. "Are you afraid of snakes?" The monk said, "I'm not afraid." Gu Jiao said, "Oh," and shook the small snake behind her. Ah! The monk's hair stood on end. His body went soft. Without the strength to cling onto Gu Jiao's body, he fell to the ground. Gu Jiao suddenly remembered that he had been bitten by a snake. She was wondering why he had been bitten by a mini banded krite when his martial arts were so high that he could easily kill a celestial wolf. It turned out that when he saw a snake, his whole body would go soft and he would not be able to exert any strength. Gu Jiao smiled wickedly and walked towards him with the small cauliflower snake. Heh. She laughed eerily and eerily. It was very exaggerated. The monk was speechless. The monk shouted, "Girl! You! What are you doing?" Gu Jiao bent down and handed the small cauliflower snake to him. She helplessly spread out her hands and said, "What bad intentions can the little snake have? It's nothing more than wanting to bite you. Who told you to be unwilling to teach the world's smartest Jiao some martial arts?" Small cauliflower snake. The monk was speechless. Digression, there are no double events this month. You don't have to keep your monthly tickets until the end of the month. You can throw them out now. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/10742160. HTML Genius remembers this site's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Pen Fun Pavilion Mobile Version Reading Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 683. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Dusk was everywhere, and the horizon was lit by a wisp of fire. Clouds curled around the mountains and rivers. In the ruined temple, a monk, a young man, and a small snake sat facing each other. The small snake tried to escape several times but was caught by the young man. The young man threw the small snake until it was dizzy. The small snake didn't run anymore and obediently curled up there. Sigh. The monk sighed. It's not that I don't want to teach you, but you can't learn those moves at all. Even if you learn them, you can't use their power. Gu Jiao said, You didn't even teach me and you know I can't learn them? Do you have internal strength? No. Do you know Qigong? No. The monk laughed. Isn't that enough? That set of fist techniques can only be unleashed by people with profound inner strength. Gu Jiao grabbed the small snake. The monk's expression changed and he stretched out his hand. Wait. I haven't finished speaking. Gu Jiao's movements paused. The small snake hung upside down in the air and cooperatively stuck out its harmless tongue. The monk calmed down and glanced at the red-tasseled spear beside the straw mat. Your weapon is a spear. I'll teach you a set of spear techniques. Oh, the monk also knows spear techniques. Gu Jiao's current spear techniques were taught by the old marquis. There were only a few moves in total, and there was only one move as a killing move. The old marquis chose that for her based on her situation at that time. In fact, with her strength recovered, that move was indeed not enough. The monk stood up and walked over to pick up the red-tasseled spear leaning against the wall. He walked to the open space outside the temple. Watch carefully. He pointed the spear to the ground and his eyes turned cold. His breath instantly circulated, as if there were invisible wind blades sweeping through the world. Gu Jiao clearly felt that the monk's aura had changed. In fact, when she thought about it carefully, this monk had always changed a lot. She couldn't sense any trace of martial arts from him, so she didn't find it strange when he fell into her trap the first time. However, the terrifying power he displayed when he killed Sky Wolf made him look like a completely different person. Gu Jiao really couldn't describe it. Gu Jiao couldn't. Perhaps, he was like a Buddha who had fallen into the demonic path. But now the Buddhist chi and demonic chi were gone. He danced with his long spear and stood in the heaven and earth. His body was full of righteousness, and even his pair of peach blossom eyes became especially serious. What kind of spear art is this? Gu Jiao muttered. After the monk finished his last move, he threw the spear to Gu Jiao and said, All right, it's your turn. This spear was very heavy. Wasn't he afraid that she wouldn't be able to catch it if he threw it over like this? It was unknown whether it was intentional or not, but the spear carried a trace of the monk's own strength. Gu Jiao almost couldn't catch it. She steadied herself and stabbed the spear heavily into the ground. Only then did she not fall to the ground. The monk slightly raised his eyebrows and said, Oh, you caught it. So you did it on purpose? Let's see how well you've recovered. If you don't have enough strength, then I can't teach you the next few moves. He said, Let's see how well you've recovered, not let's see how well you've recovered. The difference between these few words was like heaven and earth. He knew what she was like before she was injured. Then, could she think that he was already there when she was fighting against the 6 imperial guards from the Crown Prince's mansion 5 days ago? He had been secretly observing her, and only made a move when she couldn't take it anymore. Why aren't you making a move? Did you not remember? Then I'll show you again. No need. The spear art that the old duke taught Gu Jiao laid a very strong foundation for Gu Jiao. She could basically understand some of the complicated moves. The only problem was that her injuries had not healed. She was indeed lacking in strength, but she didn't need to kill people. It was enough for her to practice her spear. The monk stood at the door and looked at Gu Jiao without blinking. The first move was the simplest. It was not much different from the most important move that the old marquis had taught Gu Jiao. However, the spearhead was raised 2 inches higher, and the strength required to stab out increased by more than 20%. Gu Jiao took back the red-tasseled spear and adjusted her breathing. She said to herself, It looks simple, but I didn't expect it to consume so much strength. The monk took off his wine bag and drank a big mouthful. He looked at Gu Jiao calmly and said, "The second move." The strength of the second move was increased. Gu Jiao jumped up and stabbed the long spear from top to bottom. Her angle was exactly the same as the monk's. It was really surprising that she could imitate it to this extent after only seeing it once. After these two moves, Gu Jiao's strength was half gone. Her wounds began to hurt. The monk didn't intend to let Gu Jiao stop. "The third move," he said sternly. It seemed that ever since the monk started to play with the red tasseled spear and watched her practice, the monk's aura was different from what she had seen before. The third move was a Chinese style. It had a trick to confuse people. It had high requirements for speed and flexibility of the body. Gu Jiao hadn't stopped practicing since she came to this world. Otherwise, her waist would have been broken. After this move, Gu Jiao was slightly out of breath. The monk looked at Gu Jiao with surprise. "You still have strength." Gu Jiao finished all the moves in one go. Although it was said to be all, there were actually only 5 moves. However, the difficulty of each move after that was multiplied. The monk murmured, "This girl, I originally planned to let you finish it in 3 sessions." Gu Jiao's legs were weak. She could fall down at any time, but she supported herself with the red tasseled spear. She raised her hand and wiped the sweat on her forehead. She gasped, "Is there more?" The monk was stunned. "There is more." He paused as if he was hesitating. It was as if he had made a big decision. 3 moves. Gu Jiao was so tired that she was seeing stars. She didn't notice the hesitation in his eyes. She passed the red tasseled spear to him. "I'll take a few breaths. You can start." Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to see clearly. The monk stood in the open space with the red tasseled spear in his hand. The night wind blew and his robe fluttered. He stared at the sky. "I'm ready," Gu Jiao said. The monk didn't move. Gu Jiao tilted her head. "Monk." The monk held the red tasseled spear tightly. "Since you want to learn, I'll teach you. But remember, you can't use this spear to do evil. You can't use it to hurt the innocent. Otherwise, I'll kill you with my own hands." Gu Jiao sat on the threshold and looked at him. "You're suddenly so serious. I'm not used to it." The difficulty of the last 3 moves couldn't be compared to the first 6 moves. Gu Jiao could see it, but she still couldn't perform it all. "Let's stop here today," the monk said. "Oh." Gu Jiao put away the red tasseled spear. The 2 of them practiced for the whole night and didn't have time to eat. The monk went to the stream behind the temple and caught 2 fish to roast. He also went to the vicinity to pick some wild fruits. When he came back with a pile of wild fruits, only bones were left of the 2 roasted fish. Gu Jiao's cheeks were bulging. Her small mouth moved quickly as she tried to eliminate the evidence. The monk was furious. "Why did you finish it again? Couldn't you leave some for me?" Gu Jiao's cheeks were bulging. She looked like a little fat squirrel that was eating. She said vaguely, "I used up too much energy. I was so hungry that I couldn't hold it in." The monk was speechless. The monk went to catch 2 more fish. This time he didn't leave. He was determined to prevent someone from eating. The little snake was released by Gu Jiao. After all, it had nothing to do with it. The monk focused on roasting the fish. Gu Jiao sat on the hay. She took a cotton cloth from the small basket and carefully wiped the red tasseled spear as if she was wiping a treasure. The monk looked at her wiping the red tasseled spear and pursed his thin lips. Gu Jiao felt that he was sizing her up. When she looked at him, he had already looked away and continued to roast the fish. The monk had never asked her why she appeared in Zhao country, why she dressed as a man, and why she encountered the brocade guards from the crown prince's residence. Was he not curious about her at all? Or had he already? The monk coldly snorted. "Stop looking. It's useless. I won't let you eat." Gu Jiao's thoughts were interrupted. She paused and decided to ask him, "What's your name?" The monk didn't have a name. She naturally asked for his Dharma name. For example, Jing Kong was a Dharma name. However, Jing Kong liked this name. Even after he returned to the secular world, he was still called Jing Kong. After asking, Gu Gu Jiao secretly wondered what kind of Dharma name the monk would call her. In the end, she heard him say a word softly. Gu Jiao was stunned. Steamed? What steamed? Steamed rabbit or steamed pork ribs? The monk roared. Can't you think of anything else other than food? Gu Jiao, no, I've been starving for the past few days. The monk sighed. He picked up a withered branch and wrote a word on the ground in Yen language. Zhang. This word, it seemed that it wasn't his Dharma name. It was his secular name. The monk ended the conversation. It's late. Go to sleep. Gu Jiao. I want to eat fish. The monk. After eating another fat and juicy grilled fish, Gu Jiao rubbed her round belly and fell asleep contentedly. At night, Gu Jiao had a dream. After coming to Chengdu, she had more dreams than before. However, the interesting thing was that she basically forgot everything after waking up. In the dream, all the memories seemed to be strung together. For example, after coming to the dream, she remembered the courtyard full of bellflowers and the graveyard without a tombstone. Tonight, it was neither a courtyard nor a graveyard. Instead, it was a battlefield that stretched as far as the eye could see. Shimmering spears, armored horses and blood stained the yellow sand. There were endless battles, and soldiers constantly fell. A bloody mist filled the sky with the color of blood. Above the thousands of bones, a man in silver armor was riding on a similarly armored black-winged horse. He held the reins tightly in one hand and a red-tasseled spear in the other. His silver armor was already covered with blood, but there was no sign of retreat in his eyes. He looked at the thousands of soldiers and horses in front of him and said word by word, "The sons of the Xianyuan family will never surrender even if we fight to the last man." The next second, the scene in the dream changed. It was still this man. He was wearing silver armor and standing in the camp. He looked at the officials opposite him and said coldly, "Rebel? So what if my Xianyuan family rebels? The heavens have wronged my Xianyuan family, so my Xianyuan family will go against the heavens." Ining. Ining. It was that man's voice. The scene changed again. His voice was especially gentle and doting in this scene. However, his appearance was too horrible to look at. He had been shot in the shoulder and 2 in the thigh. He lay on the ground with blood flowing like a river. He tried to support himself with both hands so that he could sit up. Beside him squatted a little girl who was only 2 years old. "Uncle, you're bleeding. You're bleeding a lot." He smiled as if nothing had happened and wiped the blood off his palm on his armor. Then he raised his hand and touched the little girl's head. "Big uncle isn't bleeding. Big uncle was just playing with Inin." The girl tilted her head as if she was trying to discern the truth in his words. Then she asked, "Uncle, does it hurt?" He smiled and said, "It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all. Inin, let's play a game, okay?" "What game?" the girl asked. He raised his head with difficulty and endured the tearing pain all over his body. He pointed at the small house in front and said, "Do you see that small house in front?" The girl nodded and said in a childish voice, "Inin sees it." He smiled weakly. "I'll count to 3. Run over there. Run very fast. Don't stop and don't look back. You should find a place to hide in the house. If you can make first uncle unable to find you, first uncle will buy you candy to eat." The girl hid in the darkness for a long time. It was so long that when she woke up, the sky was dark and then bright. She crawled out of the box with great difficulty and stumbled back with her short legs. The mountains of the past had become a sea of corpses. Her lonely little figure crawled over the corpses lying in pools of blood. "Uncle, where are you? Inin doesn't want to play with you. Inin doesn't want candy. Inin wants uncle." The girl raised her head and looked at the city wall. Gu Jiao said, "No." Gu Jiao's body shook and she opened her eyes. The monk sat cross-legged beside her and looked at her with a faint smile. "Did you have a nightmare?" It seemed like a nightmare, but when she woke up, she couldn't remember anything. There was only one scene. A man in silver armor was nailed to the city wall by a red-tasseled spear. Gu Jiao rubbed her chest. The monk looked and took something out of his wide sleeve. He threw it to her. "Here." "What is it?" Gu Jiao asked. "Candy," the monk said. "I don't like candy." Gu Jiao returned the candy to him. "Oh, The monk raised his eyebrows in surprise. How can there be someone who doesn't like candy? My little disciple loves it very much. Every time he's unhappy, I'll use candy to coax him. He'll definitely be happy. Gu Jiao asked him strangely, you have a disciple? What kind of disciple can survive 3 days in your hands? How tenacious must his vitality be? Gu Jiao didn't dream in the latter half of the night and slept until dawn. Her body was fine. Even if the people from the Crown Prince's residence came to kill her again, she could at least escape. It was time to go back. Where's the monk? Speak of the devil. The monk walked into the ruined temple with a pile of fresh wild fruits. Just eat a little. We'll be on the road soon. Gu Jiao said, you're leaving. The monk said, you're not leaving? Gu Jiao said, I'm leaving. The monk said, then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and eat. Oh. Gu Jiao ate a few wild fruits. They were very sour. After filling her stomach, Gu Jiao packed her things. There wasn't much medicine left in the first aid kit. She had also thrown away the bow, but she could make another one. With Master Lu and Xiaoshan around, it wasn't difficult to make a bow. Gu Jiao carried the red tasseled spear and the small basket on her back. The monk stuffed the rest of the sour fruits into her small basket and said, eat them to satisfy your hunger on the way. Gu Jiao glanced at him. You're too lazy to take them, so you gave them to me, right? The monk held the prayer beads in one hand. Ba. Shanzai. This poor monk has good intentions. Gu Jiao. I'd be a fool if I believed you. The two of them left the ruined temple. In fact, Gu Jiao wanted to go to the imperial mausoleum to check on the crown princess. However, it had been 6 days since the crown prince sent out the first wave of brocade guards. Everything that should have happened had already happened. Either the crown princess was fast enough to find the bodies of the brocade guards behind the broken bridge and rush back to Chengdu before the second wave of brocade guards arrived, or the crown princess had already been killed. I'm going back to Chengdu. Where are you going next? Gu Jiao asked the monk. The moment the monk opened his mouth, a murderous aura came from behind him. The monk quickly turned around and shielded Gu Jiao behind him. He struck out a palm to meet the opponent's attack. The collision caused a crack to appear on the road. The monk looked at the empty path and sneered. Ha, you dare to sneak attack me from so far away. You're really something. Girl, you go first. Gu Jiao stuck her head out from behind him and asked, can you beat him? If you can't beat him, I can stay and help you. If it was a guy who could be killed in one move, he would not have forced the monk to use his palm. The internal strength of that palm was much stronger than when he dealt with the 3 celestial wolves. The monk smiled carelessly and narrowed his peach blossom eyes. He's a bit tricky, but not impossible. I let you go first because I don't want that ox nose to see your face and think that you're with me. If he can't beat me, he'll find trouble with you in the future. Of course, if you have doubts, you can stay. Before he could finish his words, he turned his head and saw that Gu Jiao, who had wanted to help him a second ago, had already run away without a trace. The monk was speechless. Gu Jiao spent 2 days to rush back to Chengdu from Mount Guan. The people from the Crown Prince's residence did not know who killed the first wave of brocade guards. They found the ruined temple by following the clues at the scene. Before she and the monk left, they had erased all traces of the ruined temple. As long as she did not expose herself, she would not be discovered by the people from the Crown Prince's residence. Gu Jiao returned to the residence in the evening. Mistress Nan heard the sound of horse hooves outside the door. Without thinking, she walked over and opened the courtyard door. Jiao. These days, whenever there was the sound of horse hooves in the alley, Mistress Nan would come out to take a look. You're finally back. Mistress Nan looked around the alley and pulled Gu Jiao in. She closed the courtyard door and bolted it. She asked worriedly, are you okay? Why were you gone for so long? I'm fine, Gu Jiao said. Is everything okay at home? Mistress Nan sighed. We're fine. It's just that Yen had a heart attack on the second night after you left. Fortunately, you left him some medicine. He had a fever for a night and was fine the next day. The second night after she left was when she was fighting with the brocade guards. She was injured, So Gu Yan was also uncomfortable. I'll go and see Gu Yan, Gu Jiao said. He just fell asleep. Mistress Nan and Gu Jiao went into Gu Yan's room together. On the bed, Gu Yan's breathing was shallow and even. His face was as pale as usual. Mistress Nan whispered, "Are you really okay? What happened?" Gu Jiao looked at Gu Yan on the bed and said to Mistress Nan, "I had a fight with the people from the Crown Prince's residence and encountered some trouble. I was delayed in the temple for a few days. The trouble has been solved. Mistress Nan, don't worry." Mistress Nan knew that she would only report the good news and not the bad. She asked, "Are you injured?" Gu Jiao denied. "I'm not. Even if you were, you would not admit it." Mistress Nan had no choice but to change the topic. She said, "Luleng came several times. He just left this afternoon." She made her husband and little Jing Kong worried. Gu Jiao said, "I'll go to the city to find them another day." Mistress Nan said, "Then you can ask Xiaofeng to take you there. He also comes to ask about you every day." Gu Jiao said, "Okay. By the way, where are Xiaoshan and Master Lu?" Mistress Nan said, "They went to buy firewood. Are you hungry? I'll make something for you to eat." Mistress Nan went out of the room. Gu Jiao came to the bed, bent down and touched Gu Yan's forehead. Gu Yan slowly opened his eyes. Gu Jiao smiled gently. "I knew you were awake." Gu Yan's eyes flashed with tears. He looked at her without blinking. "You're lying." Gu Jiao opened her mouth. Gu Yan said, "You're injured." Gu Jiao knew that even if she could hide it from everyone in the world, she could not hide it from Gu Yan. Gu Yan pointed to the edge of the bed. "Sit down." Gu Jiao said, "I'm dirty." Gu Yan did not say anything. He just looked at her stubbornly. Gu Jiao sighed and sat down by Gu Yan's bed. Gu Yan put his head on her lap and hugged her waist. "Sister." "Yes. Don't go out for so long." "Okay." Gu Jiao came out of Gu Yan's room. Mistress Nan had also finished cooking the noodles. Mistress Nan put a bowl of steaming noodles with preserved meat and dried bamboo shoots on the square table in the central room. She asked Gu Jiao, "Is Yan asleep?" Gu Jiao nodded. "Yes, he's asleep. This time he was really angry. I had to coax him for a long time." Mistress Nan could not help but laugh. "It's good that you can coax him. You've been gone for a few days." Gu Jiao picked up her chopsticks and asked, "Did anything big happen in Sheng City during the days I was gone?" Mistress Nan thought for a while and said, "Something big. There was indeed one." Gu Jiao stopped slurping the noodles. Mistress Nan said, "The Crown Princess is back." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that you can't find on the internet here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1074030087. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website, zhhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.